Welcome to volume 2 of Team Korda's Carp Fishing Masterclass. My name is Danny Fairbrass and you find us here in Tuscany in Italy. Myself and Ali Hamidi are fishing a little mountain lake, typical of a load of lakes in Italy. It's quite a special place because it's got carp in it to over 60 pounds and I'm attached to a decent looking fish now. As you can probably see in the background, we're using boats, so we're rowing over to the far margin and dropping our baits fairly close to the far margin. So we're going to talk through all the tactics of tackle and rigs and obviously bait for doing this kind of fishing. And I'm also very excited to show you some sessions that Daryl Peck and myself had on one of the top circuit waters in Belgium. We've got some really great results to show you over there, and it's a spectacular place to fish. And of course, some of the other members of Team Korda will be on it fishing in the UK. So a real mixed bunch of fishing. There are none of the venues or places that we've had on Masterclass before. And lots of the tackle and tactics are different too. So I am going to shut up now because the fish is getting close and it's a decent fish, and concentrate on getting him in that landing net. Come on, big fella. He's nailed. Get in that net. Oh. Get in that net. Get in that net, you great big carp. Get in. Come on. Wicked. Ah, oh, what a way to start volume 2.
On the nose, or 48 and 3/4.
Yeah?
Yeah, 48 and 3/4 I'd say.
Get in! Well, check that out. 48 pounds, 12 ounces, a proper Italian bar of gold. It's exactly why we've come here, and obviously you're going to see us later in Masterclass fishing this lake, showing all the tips and tactics. But for now, I'm going to hand you over to the rest of Team Korda for their contribution to volume 2 of the Masterclass.
I love Walthamstow so much, probably because I've grown up fishing here. But because I do love the day style of angling. Getting down here, everyone's in the same boat. If you make the effort to get up in the morning and get on that gate first thing, you get the swim you want to and you make the most of the time you're here. And I find that more exciting than sitting on the lake for 48 hours. I haven't fished here much this year, so I managed to get down yesterday for a bit of a recce. I fished 4 different swims in the morning and ended up in this one. I caught one on my right-hand rod about 1:30 in the afternoon and I lost one about an hour later. So it was a brilliant place for me to start today. I made sure I got in nice and early on the gate this morning, so I made sure I get back in this swim. Because if not, I'll have been fuming sitting somewhere else thinking somebody else was going to catch the fish that I should have caught today. So that's the first thing I've done, was get here nice and early. I walked around into this swim and put the rod straight back out onto the spot where I caught the fish yesterday. That was my right hand rod that you can see in the background there. I'm fishing it nice and tight up against an island. There's a little bush and I'm sliding down the side of that. It's probably only a foot or two off the island. And my second rod, which is the middle rod, is also up against the island, not quite as tight, but I put it up there because I saw a fish show there this morning. There's a sort of really dark green bush and it jumped about 4 foot off the island. So I took note of exactly where that was, and that's where that middle rod went. And my left hand rod, I've swung that out in open water. It's nowhere near the island. I've put that out at 16 wraps just because I know from past captures that that's where I've caught fish from. It's slightly deeper out there. It's probably only 4 or 5 foot deep, but the rest of the lake's only 3 foot. So that seemed like a good place as any to start with that left hand rod. I've put a little bit of bait around each one. Because it's November though, I haven't put too much out, probably 10 or 15 baits around each rod, and hopefully that'll encourage them to get myself a bite. So my plan is to stay in this swim all day today. It would be silly for me to move out any time before I had the bites yesterday, which was sort of 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm going to stick it out and see what happens. From turning up in the morning, because you've got such a short amount of time, you've got to make the most of it. So in the winter, it's not you're not moving so much because the action's less. You've got to stick it out in swims a little bit longer to warrant moving after, because if you set up in the winter for 2 hours, you can't move if you haven't caught one, because they might be there, they're just that you haven't gone through the feeding time yet. So in the summer, I'd be moving probably every hour and a half, 2 hours, and because the fish are more active, you can see whether they're in your swim or not. But in the winter, that's not happening so much. So I'll stick it out a little bit longer in the swims and hopefully see out some time of action. Right, well, bite time's been and gone here, and luckily because I've got the crew here, I've been able to have a walk up onto the two and have a little look. And while I was down there, I've seen a couple of fish in an empty swim, so I'm going to pack up as quick as humanly possible and set up in my new swim. Walthamstow really suits me because it is days. I prefer doing the short sessions, so you're really making the most of your fishing. Instead of fishing for 48 hours where people relax and sit down and you've got a few nights to think about it, when you're here, you're trying to make the most of it. So you're moving swims, you're trying to find the fish, and I think that makes you a better angler. I suppose it's like the effort you put in before. The effort you put in before you come fishing. The getting up early, the thinking about it constantly, the sitting in the freezing cold for hours, and then when that alarm goes, that's the reason you were there, Well, we got round here in super quick time, and no sooner have I haven't even put my bank sticks in yet, and my left-hand rod's away, exactly where I saw the fish when I come back round. It just goes to show how important it is that you can move quickly. You'll have noticed that I hardly had anything on my barra. I didn't even pack the rods down, got them on the barra and got round here in super quick time. It just goes to show how really, really important it is to make sure on these short day sessions that you've got your rods in the right place for as much time as possible. So even though I've got an hour and a half probably in this swim, made the effort, just trying to get that snag around there, made the effort to get round here, and it's paid off straight away. So many times this has happened to me. I can feel it touching the branches. We'll talk about the rigs another time, but you'll notice that the heli-safe there has dropped the lead, so I'm in direct contact with the fish. See it coming out of the water. And I'll fight for November, I tell you. Oh, this is the moment I hate. Go on, go in the net, please. Yes! Now that is a result after a quick move. Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, I really enjoy winter fishing. It's harder, obviously, because the fish aren't so active, but holding a carp in freezing cold conditions, far beats anything in the summer. Well, that is an absolute result for November. Just goes to show that if you find fish, especially in the winter showing, you've got to make the effort to move on to them, because this can be the result. I caught him on a pineapple wafter, just a single out there in the silt. They work so well, they do. Got absolute confidence in them. I'm over the moon with that. I'm going to slip him back, see if I can catch another one in a bit. Mwah. Oh, he's gone. What a cracking fish. What a cracking fish. Walthamstow is my favourite place. I grew up fishing here when I was about 15, 16 years old. First come down here and sort of just fell in love with the place from then, really. I've fished here probably every year since then. It's completely different to all of the other venues around the country just because it's right in the centre of London. 10 metres away you've got lights flashing from police cars and loads of traffic about, and that's not something you get elsewhere. Fishes really well throughout the winter. You can come down any time and catch a good fish. If you've got a day's fishing, which is all I've got a week generally, sort of the Saturday, I can come down and fish for the day and expect to catch one. Whereas elsewhere you've got to set up for 48 hours before you know you've got a chance of getting a fish. Well, good morning. Got here back here nice and early. It's been pouring down the rain since I got here about 6:30 this morning. But I've made sure I get here nice and early to get back in the same swim. We fished for probably another 2 hours after I caught that fish last night. The light was fading, the gate was going to close, so I ended up having to get out the gate. So the main thing is that I've got here nice and early to get back in this swim. The fish were in here last night. The wind's similar sort of direction, so there's no reason for the fish to have moved, so it's a great starting point, and that's something that I would definitely do on the waters near you if you're going out doing day fishing, is to make sure you get back in the same peg that you caught fish the day before, and it gives you a little bit of a one-upmanship on the rest of the guys. So I'm going to get my rods out. I'm probably going to put one up against the island like I did yesterday. I didn't catch anything on that, but it's always worth a shout nice and tight to the island. It's a spot that I've caught from before. The left-hand rod's going to go out in open water where I had the bite, and then my middle rod's going to go sort of down the side of the island in open water where I saw some fish yesterday. So without further ado, I'm going to get my rods out and see if I can catch one. Well, now I've got the rods out and they're all settled, I thought I'd just take a moment to take you through my bank stick setup. I've got the Delkim TXIs there. I've used them for 7 or 8 years now. They never ever let you down. I have them on sort of 2 or 3 sensitivity, and I pretty much get away with that everywhere now in the summer or the winter. You'll notice a slight change as well with my Elstow bobbins. They're slightly thinner, these ones, and we've changed the little clip on the outside. We've just put a little metal insert in there so the clip doesn't bend. Oh, the wind, so the clip doesn't bend out and you end up not being able to push your line in. So they've slightly changed, they're updated. Next is the Signet 2020 bank sticks. They're aluminium, lightweight. They look good as well, don't they? So this is a stage stand part here. It makes it really easy to move when you're day ticket fishing with the platforms. All you have to do is I'll keep all of this set up. I'll take the bank stick out. It's a small 6-inch bank stick, just so it keeps it nice and low to the platform. I'll take that out, and inside's a screw that goes through a hole in the bottom. You get yourself a Phillips screwdriver and then just screw it into the platform. I've probably got them 2 or 3 foot apart, so you get a nice splay with these 3-rod buzz bars. So it's a nice, quick and easy setup for anywhere you're fishing on platforms. Well, the rigs have been out for a few hours now, so I've just decided to reel that one in and have a little rechuck. And it's something I do quite often when I'm fishing day sessions, is to reel in, freshen up, put a new bait on and cast it back out. Maybe try a different spot than I had it out before, because it's been out there a few hours and I hadn't had a bite. it's always worth just redoing it just to make sure it's sitting right. And I'm not fishing much bait out there today anyway, so there's no need to, you know, worry about having to put bait out and scaring the fish away. It's one cast, it's quick and easy, it can often get you another bite. So while I've reeled in as well, I'll show you the rig I've got. Because it's so silty out there, I've opted for a helicopter setup and not the normal lead clip setup. And by that I mean the swivel and the hook links on the lead core, and it slides all the way up to the top to a buffer bead that's probably 1.5 foot above my lead, and that way I've got really good presentation when the lead goes into the silt, and the hook link can sit on top nice for a bite. The hook link is a combi setup, and because it's sliding up the lead core, it doesn't have to be really soft like I'd fish it on a lead clip. So that's pretty stiff, that is. It's probably about 30 or 40 pound, that fluorocarbon, and I've crimped a little loop in the end, and then I've got a little loop to loop section of soft supernatural to a size 6 crank, and then my little tiny pineapple goo on the end there. And you notice on the end there I've got a little heli-safe clip, and that just allows me to drop the lead when a fish is on the end. You won't drop it on normal fishing when you're just reeling in like through weed or anything. Only when there's tension on this end do you pull it and the lead just shakes off like that. And that allows me obviously to drop the lead when there's weed about, and to be honest, I prefer to drop it when I can really, just so I've got direct contact with the fish. You end up losing less. And I'm coupling that with probably 3 to 4 foot of lead core, just to make sure I've beefed up the end tackle, I don't get any nicks in the line, and it's safer that way when you've got the line, the swivel running up and down the line. So that's that rig. I've got them on both of my left and middle rod that are fishing out on the silty areas, just to make sure I've got that good presentation. But on my right hand rod that I'm fishing up against the island, I know it's really clayey there and gravelly, so there's no need to fish that sort of setup. So I've got a slightly shorter hook link on that one. It's exactly the same, a little combi, but just the fluorocarbon is just slightly shorter on that, so I've got direct contact with the lead when the fish picks the bait up. So they're my rigs. I'm going to change the bait on this one and get it back out. People often ask me why I like fishing so much, and I guess it is weird for somebody that doesn't like fishing themselves, but to be honest, it's just nice to get away from it all. You've got a busy life, busy job, and to get away on a Saturday and spend some time outside in pursuit of something that you love doing, catching the fish. It's just nice to get out, to be honest. Right, well, it's coming to the end of the day now. No bites as yet, but it's sort of bite time at the minute, so hopefully in the next hour or something we can get something. But I just wanted to take the time out just to talk about bait. You'll have noticed that I wouldn't have put much out throughout the day while I've been here, or yesterday really. I do bring some free bait with me. I bring this cell here. I use it everywhere throughout the summer and the winter, but I've only been putting it out at night when I leave. So they're eating it throughout the night, and then when I get here in the morning, I can cast out. Most of the bait's gone, and hopefully I can get a bite straight away. Hook baits wise, these are my get out of jails. These are the mainline IB wafters and the IB pop-ups, and I've just laced them in pineapple goo. They're extremely high attract, and I just catch on them everywhere. So for people that have got 400 pots of pop-ups with different flavours, different colours, this and that, what you're better off doing is sticking to one that you know, something that you're confident in, and something that you can catch on in winter and the summer. These I'd use more in the winter. In the summer I'd probably use a cell on the hook, but when you're fishing in the winter you want a really high attract hook bait so you can get a bite without putting much bait out at all, and hopefully that will catch you a fish or two throughout the winter. I think for me, and like most other carp anglers, the time when you feel like you've got it all right and everything you've done in advance has worked is when that buzzer goes. And that is the most exciting part about carp fishing. Obviously you want to land the fish, and it's brilliant when you get it in the net and you see what you've caught, but that moment when the buzzer goes, that's the time. Well, as you can see, the light's fading. It is last knockings. I think a lot of people would have reeled in by now to miss the traffic. But on these day sessions, you've got to make sure that your rods are in the water as long as possible, and they're the last things you pack away, because this can happen. This is such a great venue for winter fishing. It fishes like this all the way through the winter. If you make the effort to make sure you're on the fish at the right time, and all your tactics are right, you can get bites. For some reason, they mean so much more in the winter. I've got a big snag to my right-hand side, and they always quite right in here. I really just don't want it to get caught in that. I can feel it touching branches. Come out. No. think he's out. That's better. It's on that helicopter rig we was talking about earlier with the goo hook bait over just a really small amount of bait that I put out earlier. And I'd put some out the night before, but very little amount still. So when they do turn on for the 20 minutes of feeding, you can get yourself a bite. I was lucky to get him out of that tree, but he's just under my rod tip now. Hopefully he can go in the net. Either way, it's been a bit of a result the last couple of days. It's very important, no matter what time of year, that you're confident in what you're doing. But what I said earlier about the baits, to make sure that you're confident in what you've put out, sitting there behind 3 confident rods is completely different to worrying about what you've put out, thinking that you haven't got the right thing on. But when you've got something like the pineapple goo that I'm completely confident in, as soon as the fish turn up, you think you're going to get a bite, and somehow that converts into actually catching them. Confidence is key. Right, this fish looks like it's had it now. It's a little common. Please go in the net. That is an absolute result. Oh, don't let him get out. Well, that is a brilliant way to end a couple of days at Wolverhampton Reservoirs in the middle of November. £21 14 ounce common just to finish my day. Hope you picked up a few bits over the last couple of days just to help you go out and catch yourself a winter carp. I'm going to get this one back and get out of the gate in time. Mwah, beautiful.
Well, it's been the first real cold morning of the year. Would you agree, Mr. Spooner?
Absolutely, mate.
We've come to Brasenose 2 on the Linear Fisheries Complex. The plan, if you like, is to put on a big hit fishing masterclass. But the carp may have other ideas. But as the fog's lifted, so is our hope, because that rod absolutely roared off, didn't it, mate?
It did, mate. I mean, we've been obviously working the spots as much as possible. I only just finished putting a few spots out, 3 or 4 spots, just to use a phrase, we've rung the dinner bell again.
Yeah, no worries, yeah, ringing the dinner bell. What we're going to try to show you in this part of the film is actually how we try to amass a big hit, okay? That's going to be from finding the features, the bait that we use, the rigs that we use, clipping up, frequency of baiting, all of the important things that we get asked about loads on Facebook and Twitter all of the time. It's trying to help you get an idea of how we do it. But if the weather does play against us, we might be doing a cold water masterclass. So we're going to play it by ear because, like I say, the weather has turned, and often when you get a drop in temperature this time of year, the fish can switch off a little bit, but the light levels have changed. And I've told you, Neil, haven't I, from the filming that I've done here with the junior champs and everything else, the fish tend to move up that end of the lake in the dark,
yeah,
and tend to come back down here in the light. And it's no coincidence. I'd say it's cleared for what, half an hour, would you say?
Tops.
Yeah, and it's literally nearly lunchtime, so the light levels seem to play a part, and I've noticed it here all the time. This part of the lake seems to be better when it's you know, nice and bright, and the fish move back down in the main body. So we're going to get this one in, and hopefully we can crack on with loads of those tips, loads of ideas, giving you something to apply to your fishing as well. One of the important parts about this type of fishing, especially if you're doubled up on the point like we are here, is to work as a team. And you'll notice, hopefully we'll get this one in because we're not too far away, and the first thing Neil's going to do is put his bait back out, feed the swim, and tell you all about the bait. So go on, get out there, do that, mate. Go on, son.
Right, the first fish is safely in the net, but before I get another rod in the water, the most important thing is to give them a little bit more food. Now, there's a lot of fish in Brasenose, you know, a big bulk of them tend to stay together in a shoal, and they've come across my spot, I've had a bite, they might have cleared me out for all I know, and they could easily just move on to someone else's bait. I don't want that to happen, so I want to give them a few more spods of bait, just so they know there's a bit more bait trickling down. Onto the spod mix itself, it is very important what you put in. I start off with the ever faithful mainline cell boilies. I've got some crushed up in there first. I've then followed it with some 14 mils and some 10 mils for good measure, just to keep them guessing so they're not quite sure what's coming next. After that, I've added a bag of sweet corn, and you'll have seen from the underwater footage exactly how much carp love that bait. It can turn them from not being that interested to really getting their heads down. And on linear especially, these carp have seen it so often, they know it's food. After that, I've put some pellets in. I've got some ellipse pellets, about 8 mil in size, not the tiniest ones. I don't want to preoccupy them on them. There's just a few out there that they can muscle around in, letting off nice levels of attraction, again, pulling the fish down to my spot. Then there's a bit of hemp. Now in the past I used to absolutely fill my spod mix with hemp, but all that I tend to find you do is get them totally preoccupied on it. It can be very, very difficult to get a bite. So now it's just a couple of handfuls. That oily goodness leaking off, again, just pulling them down into my mixture. On top of that, I've added a nice glaze of tiger nut goo. It's a new one coming out, and it's just nice natural sweet flavours. Again, something else in the swim that's drawing this pack of fish into my area. Give it a good stir up to get it all mixed up so it's all mixed in together, as you can see in the bucket. And then finally, I've added some maggots to the mix as well. Now, believe it or not, I'm actually allergic to them. They give me a nasty head cold, get horrible allergic reaction, a bit like hay fever. Not a nice thing, but if that's what the carp want, if that's what's going to turn them on, then I've got to have them in my mix. There we go, that's the mix. I'm going to get this back in now, get another rod back out and see if we can nick another one. But when doing this sort of fishing, when fishing over particle, and in particular when fishing on a really firm bottom like I am today, my favourite hook link material is hybrid stiff. Now it's an incredibly stiff hook link, as the name would suggest, and I use it in really, really short lengths, just sort of 5 or 6 inches. This one in particular is on, I'm fishing 5 inches at the moment. Give it a little steam over the kettle and it goes poker straight. So I know that as soon as that lands, once balanced with I've got critically balanced wafter hook baits on, that have been soaked in the new, well, some of the new goos. These bites have come on the new tiger nut one that you've already seen me put into the spod mix. That's then knotless knotted, very, very simply, 7-turn knotless knot to a size 6 crank hook. And that type of pattern is just so aggressive. It's got an incredibly wide gape, an offset point, a short shank, and it just appears that, you know, wherever it touches flesh in the carp's mouth, that's where it's going to hook it. This fish really is not playing ball. He's going well right.
Come to the rescue with the net, me old chum.
Cheers, mate.
I was hiding out. I managed to get a rain jacket on. But no, it's really, really important to say that the stuff that you put out there, you know, it's really critical. It doesn't tangle. It's always fishing nice and clean. So Neil's got his, you know, his favoured hybrid leg clip setup. It's all just there. You're confident that you're always fishing. Again, vital. We see it on the underwater film all the time. There's lots of fish here. You're going to be getting picked up. You're not going to hook them all. That rig's got to go back out, hasn't it, and keep fighting. I call them punch bag rigs.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. The wafter hook baits as well that Neil's using, that really helps, because if you imagine, if it was a straight bottom bait, if a fish picked it up and blew it back out, sometimes it can sink right back down by the lead or in a funny position because it's quite heavy. When you've got a wafter, it obviously kicks away from the lead system and settles nicely. So every time a fish picks it up, that sort of buoyancy to the hair and everything else just moves it all away from the lead system and just keeps you fishing. And like I say, these type of lakes, you're getting that plenty of times. Fish coming in, picking it up, blowing it out until one properly nails itself. But I think you're increasing your chances with the setup you've got on, haven't you? And that crank hook, wide gape, everything like that.
As you said, mate, you're putting everything in your favour. I notice it in particular on the underwater filming, the amount of rigs that get picked up, they get dropped again, and that's kind of it. They're not really fishing anymore, are they?
Yeah, that's day ticket carping, isn't it?
Yeah,
as well?
exactly.
Law of averages, using what you're confident in. If you were using, say, a braided hook link out there, it just isn't the one, I don't think. It's like one chance saloon. You could have a roach, anything come in, trash the spot, and you've got one of your rigs that probably isn't fishing as effectively as something like a hybrid stiff hook link that punches back out. It's got that little bit of combi at the end just to give it that piece of movement, but ultimately it just keeps on coming out, fighting and fighting and fighting, and there you go, proof in the pudding. I see as well you've sort of whittled a bit away there. Is that just to change the buoyancy slightly?
Yeah, it was, mate. It was. I like my bait to be. There we go.
Yeah, go on.
I like my bait to sit on the bait. I don't like it actually waft. Even though it's a wafting hook bait, I still prefer it just on the deck. I think sometimes that can put them off.
Yeah.
So just whittle it away until the hook's nice and flat and the bait's just touching the deck. Mwah.
Nice tip.
Perfecto.
Go and clean your glasses. There you go, mate. This is it. This is what we're on about, masterclass.
So right, who cares if it's raining?
Yeah, exactly. You ain't even had a chance to clean your glasses, to be fair. So,
well, no.
And the lens is getting littered probably with rain as well at the same time. But this is what we're on about. He's got one rod on the rest, putting those spods back out on the area, and that's what happens. The shoals moving, like I say, they come back down the middle of that lake, I think, as the morning builds, and you start nailing them. And if you haven't got food in there, you ain't going to catch them because they'll just bypass you. You might nick one, but what he's done, he's nicked 3, and that's the difference. Oh, don't know, did I get a little bleep?
A little bleepage?
Yeah, there you go. It's probably birds on me, mate. There's none on you. It's always birds on me.
Always, mate.
But they're coming in nicely. Now, the important thing here as well is frequency of baiting, okay? Not only are you going to bait up when you've had fish, it's important to keep putting a little bit in time after time. If you just do it at the start of the session, for example, you put, I don't know, 20 spods out, that's great. But a lot of people, what they do is they put a load out and then they sit on it and they're not doing anything to activate the swim. I'll help you there, mate, if you want. Mate. Just keep it going in, keep the food going in. You know, even if it's 1 or 2 spods, it's a little bit of noise, it just gets it going. But here we go, let me come around the front, little dance move. There you go, hybrid lead clips, done its job, lead's off.
Absolutely.
And there's still quite a lot of weed in this place as well, especially banks of it as you come up the marginal shelf. So
here he comes.
Here we go. There we are, Spooner. You're running out of nets, mate.
There we are, mate. I've still got a rod ready to go out though, mate.
Good, good. Best practice. Well done.
Yeah.
Top man.
Well, there we go. The first of the 20-minute hat trick. This one coming in at £20.12. Not a bad way to start the session. We'll weigh the other ones in a second and see what else we got. Happy days. Well, here we go. It was fish number 2, that mad little spell. We went just a fraction under £20, so I'm well chuffed. We've already had number 3 out. It was a small little mirror, probably about 12 or 13 pound, but they are all very, very welcome. Because I'm pretty greedy though, I want to get this one back, get me rods back out and just see if I can have a few more.
Double take. Well, contrary to common belief, and unbelievably, after saying it was going to be a big hit, it is actually turning out that way. But a lot of people, like I say, contrary to common belief, they seem to think that we have swims roped off for weeks on end and a team Korda turn up and it's all been baited up and we just start catching because of that. But actually, the reason is what we've been showing you, doing it right, you know, how you feed the swim. And like Spooner's done it, I've kept doing the same things, kept ringing the dinner bell, 2 or 3 spods every 30, 40 minutes because I know fish are now in the area, so it's about getting that interest. But if you have a look around any of these lakes a lot of the time, unless you get one of them good anglers on, often what you'll see is a bit of bait goes out, 5 hours of nothing. Sit down, drink a beer, watch the telly, watch a DVD. And this is proof in the pudding. I've had one and literally I have just swept the net under it and the other rod has roared off. And that's what happens when you get it right, when you've got everything accurate, pinpoint, this is what happens. This is why we call it big hit fishing, because it's all on the money and it's just waiting for the fish to turn up and feed. But if you don't do anything, then why do the fish need to come in that swim, you know? There could be something happening elsewhere that just draws that shoal to them. So by just ringing that dinner bell, drawing fish into the swim, that's what happens. Now moving on to the rig. I've got to admit, the lead system that I've got on, the actual product that makes it all possible, is something that I've been excited about. Well, I've never been as excited about this regarding a Korda product. It's called the HeliSafe. And you may remember last year on the masterclass, fishing Gigantica, I was using chod rigs, naked chods, fishing at about 130 yards, and I was having to put a contraption together to allow me to use a big lead at range on a helicopter system and for it to drop off. But the HeliSafe, thank God to the heavens, has made it possible that you don't need to come up with any contraption, you don't need to make any loops with armour cord or pull bits of lead core through a sleeve. Literally, it's a spring-loaded mechanism that comes in a few little bits, just slides onto the line, has half a swivel that plugs into another section inside it. It all clips together nicely, and it, like I say, spring loaded, and then all you do is just clip your lead on. It is a very, very ingenious product, which means you can use helicopter leads now at range with heavy leads and chod rigs, and you don't need to worry about having sort of that lead bouncing around their mouths with a short hook link, which is often the problem when you use big leads and helicopter rigs. Everything becomes really close down there, and if you've got a big lead, it actually almost works like a disgorger and helps sometimes pull the hook out. So it's an absolute worldie of a product, to be honest. And if you're fishing in weed, you're fishing at range, and you want that lead off, then you can use it like that. But, and I know what you're thinking, oh yeah, Korda making us drop our leads. That's not the case actually, because if you don't want to drop your lead and you want to use it as a conventional clip, it comes with another little part that clips in there, and you can quite simply just add that in, lock it off, and you can fish it so the lead doesn't come off. Like this one here, I've fished that exactly like that. I've kept it on, and on this occasion, this clip, lead's on. So you can see one's without it, and the other one is with it. So perfect, couldn't have turned out better. And this one, a squid goo hook bait and a very big brazen-nose mirror carp. How about that? Well, here we go, we've weighed the big one. This was the, well, my second one of that mad little spell, 25 1/4. And the one that Spooner had, along with the other smaller one that I caught first, they were just typical brazen-nose 2 mid-doubles. But this one, like I say, 25 1/4, big old fat thing. And you know what, just desserts for all that hard work we've put in. And this old crazy hat I'm wearing, that's pretty befitting of that mad little spell. Awesome, no rods out in the water. Time for some food, and then I think we'll carry on with this little brazen-nose adventure. Well, here we go. The rods haven't been out too long, probably about 20 minutes. Me and Spooner, both like sequential ballerinas, managed to put a few spots out as well together. Saw a big old slick come up, and I would say about 5 minutes after, this rod has rattled off. Now, I spoke to you about the lead system that I'm using, but the rig, well, it's fair to say it's pretty famous now. I'd say possibly as famous as the chod rig. It's the IQD rig, made famous by our very own gaffer, Danny. I saw him first use it on Gigantica quite a few years back now. Feels like a few years ago anyway, and he done so well, caught so many monsters. And I remember looking at that rig at the time, and to be honest, I didn't fancy it. I don't know why. Just sometimes you look at something and think, yeah, it's not for me. It's a little bit too stiff, doesn't have any movement at the end. And it's fair to say, you couldn't be more wrong. Similar to, you know, a pop-up on a stiff rig like the chod that sits up. This one sits flat, but it always corrects itself. It always kicks back out. And obviously you saw Danny be mega successful on Gigantica with it. But then when we saw underwater proof of how good that rig was, then we needed no further evidence. I think the first time I ever saw it nail something, it was the big plated. You're probably bored of us talking about it, but I've never seen, if carp could look frightened, that fish really did when it got nailed. And it's actually quite an easy rig to tie. If you can master that knot, the part that actually connects to the hook to start forming the D, it's like a whipping knot, then the rest of it's really easy, because all you do then is slide on a micro rig swivel and then quite simply finish it with a knotless knot. But if you don't fancy making a rig yourself, hang on, this one's got me in a bit of strife, I think. Come on, this will test the rig. Well, I'll carry on telling you about the IQT rig in a minute. This has snarled me up in a bit of weed, which even though it's late on into November, there are still big beds of weed on Brasenose 2, and sometimes they have a habit of going behind one and then swimming into the bank low, and they get themselves head first into one of them. So all I'm doing now is just slackening off a bit in my hand, not going too slack, and letting it go semi-tight. It's literally, it's gone from right to left past Spooner's rods. To be fair, it's gone past the angler next door, so hopefully we can get this back. Oh, watch this. Here we go. Watch the line tighten, everyone. Here we go. Let's go. Here we go, and we're out. Don't want to give it the old Blue Peter one, but that's one I prepared earlier, to be fair. I've done that a few times to get me out of a pickle. Love it when a plan comes together. Right, now I did mention that tying the whipping knot of the D-rig can be slightly complicated for some people, but if you don't want to do that and you're not worried about male pride of tying your own rigs, then that's exactly why we developed the brilliant ready tied versions of the IQ D-rig. You can literally buy them in a packet, and as Dan showed so well, that's quite a good fish, isn't it?
Fish, that, mate, yeah. Not the little one that you tried to bag us with at the start.
God, I'll tell you what, mate, that's a cheese.
It's one of them, mate.
That's big for it.
I might lose it, it might be a little one, probably small.
As Dan showed so well at Carpissons, they really are brilliant. And if you want to just use a ready tied one, get those ones and fish them with confidence. Super sharp curve hooks. I'm using the size 4. I really do prefer the larger curves. And you can see there a monster crab goo wafter on the high impact sticking out of its mouth. That is a lump.
And it's in there.
Thank you very much. That is what the IQ D-rig does. Nails them to the ground every single time. Now, similarly to Spooner, bait straight back out in the swim. Now this is important, the distance that you clip up. It's something I've actually learned a bit more about this year, by accident really. I was fishing up against an island and I had my fishing rod at 11 wraps, okay? So I was casting, I thought, oh, I might put a bit of spod out. Right, so I measured the spod rod to 11 wraps as well, and because I was fishing against an island, I could almost tell exactly, you know, how tight the spod was going to land. And lo and behold, I've put the spod out, and it landed half a rod length short. So basically, because of the spring in the mono, it's sort of stretching it out further, where because on your spod rod you're normally using braid, you don't get that same stretch. So pretty much when it hits the clip, it lands straight down. With the mono, what you end up doing is getting a little bit of stretch. So as it goes out, it tends to spring past the spot, and because we're only fishing in like 6 foot of water, what can happen is it will spring past and it hasn't got a chance to correct itself on the way down, because it will swing down and it's down, okay? In deeper water, if you're hitting the clip reasonably hard, there's a chance it'll actually come back and it'll swing a little bit into you based on how you feel the lead down. So what I've started to do is when I sort of clip the rods up, quite simple really, I'll do the spod rod, bang on where the spot is if you like, which is 24 wraps. And then the fishing rods, because of the mono I've got on, I'll clip up at 23.5 wraps. So that ensures that I'm not fishing through the spot, I've not got bait landing on the lines, I'm literally fishing right up to the bait, bang on the money every time. Now the final point is how hard you hit your clip. I see a lot of people sometimes just touch the clip and put the rod down. It's fallen so far short, it's ridiculous, you know. The other thing is hitting the clip too hard, and what you end up is you either get a massive spring back, or in shallow water it springs well past your spot. So the key is to hit it nice, a good weight, so that you're on the money every time. So look, it's going out there, feather it a little bit, lovely, damp, just down, beautifully, and on the money. Can't say fairer than that. There we go, a few spods back on the money, the rod right on the spot, and time to enjoy my glorious Brasenose 2 prize, 26 pounds, 12 ounces, and you know what, they don't get much better looking than this, proper plump, proper big, glorious. Well, good morning. We got the rods out about half an hour ago, me and Spooner. We hadn't actually fished through the night just to get some kip. And I don't actually think the fish stay in this area during the night, to be honest. You keep a few around, but not many. And like I say, we put the bait out this morning at first light, about 10 spods, just to get the area ignited again. And put the rods out over the top, and then I've put about another 3 or 4 out just a little way down the line. And it's been out probably, I'd say, just about an hour now, the rods. And the first bite has come, and hopefully it won't be the last one. But it's really, really nice. That's the important thing. Like we keep saying it, I don't want to feel like I'm drumming it home to you, but it is just that vital to keep the activity going, keeping the food in. You know, a lot of people, they don't know how many to start with at the start of a session. They think they need to, you know, just put out a bucket load and then sit there. Other people think just to put out a few, you know, but the important thing is to keep the activity going. You know, I'd rather put in a bucket throughout a day than one in one hit. That's what I'd, you know, that's the best advice I can give you when it comes to baiting. So when I come to a typical lake like this, the first thing I'll do is find the spot that I'm happy with, somewhere that I know the baits are presentable. In this situation, there's that old road that Neil may have referenced while he was playing his first fish. It's an old road that sort of runs through that main body. It's at about sort of 23 to 25 wraps before it hits the sort of detritus and stuff on the bottom. And it's just a nice range, that is 96 yards. You need to put a little bit of body movement into it when you cast, but if you watch me and Spooner, we don't just stand there with our legs flat. We get our body into it to make the cast as simple as possible and to make sure we hit the clip every single time. And the same with the spod, you know, everything's clipped up. Like I say, spod slightly further than the fishing rods, half the rod length. And that's it. Once the marker goes out at the start of the session, it doesn't go out again, because we pick a tree line marker on the horizon. In this instance, I've got a tall bushy tree, and literally I've got a rod sort of halfway along it and one to the right. And then quite simply, once I've found the spot, the bait goes in. Start with sort of 10 or 12 medium-sized spods or the midi spom, and then after that it's just a matter of just keep ringing the dinner bell. Even if you're not getting bites, you know, just put 3 or 4 out. There's so many bits and pieces in that spod mix that we showed you, so much in that buffet, that little fish will break that down. You know, they'll be in and out all over it. So you're not just putting more bait on bait, you know, you're putting little bits in there. The little fish are whistling it away. You're squeezing little bits of goo into it to build sort of taste and everything else in the water column, and you're just getting it, you're revving it up constantly. And that's the important thing about this type of fishing. If you want bites, you've got to work at it. You can't just sit there and hope it happens. You've got to make it happen, and that's the critical factor. And we'll try to talk about hook baits a little more as we go, but the same as putting the right bait out, the same as the frequency of baiting, is choosing the right hook bait, you know, and that could be colour, but more importantly, taste. Colour and taste combined together is a proven deadly combination. I like to use the mainline wafters, the high impact ones, or the cell, the hybrid, the banoffee, those types of things. And then what I do is I just drizzle the different supreme goos over them, and I have my favourite combos, if you like. On this particular trip, me and Spooner are testing out some of the new ones that are out for release. You've got some real characters in there, if you like. You've got a crab one coming out. You know, monster crab needs no introduction into fishing. It's brilliant, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you a little bit more about the different blends and everything else. There's one that I'm quite proud to say I've named, Vindagoo. And as the name would suggest, that's a real spicy number. And you may have noticed that me and Spooner have been sort of putting a few drops of that in every spot, and that's to get the taste out there. And this one, once again, on a crab wafter. There we go. Job done. Hopefully that gave you a little insight into how we feed the swim and how we build it up and the quantities you need to use. And there you go. He didn't mind, did he? Well, there you go, an absolute stunner. As my old mate D Macy will say, not one of the biggest I've ever caught, but definitely one of the most beautiful. a real testimony to some of the glorious carp that are in Brasenose 2 now. The rods have gone back out, everything's primed once again. We're keeping busy, me and Spooner, and hopefully it won't be too long before I'm kissing another stunner like this. Mwah! Thank you, mate. Oh, yes. Lifting. Slow bite me up. Well, this is quite good timing as it goes, because it had gone slow for a little while, and it's very, very important when that does happen, if you have been putting the bait, to do something, change something. And what I actually did was wound the rod in, and I recast this one, re-gooed the hook bait, and I'm going to get my old mate Neil Spooner in, because we're going to have a chat about hook baits now, the sort of thought process behind what we use and why we do it. Come on, Spooner, get in. We're going to get the old net out, because we haven't got long left of this session, and it's the one topic we haven't really gone into in too much depth. People are probably bored of hearing about me and you know how I use goo and everything, but I know you've sort of quietly gone about your business with it over the last couple of years, and you use it a lot in your fishing, don't you?
In all of my fishing now.
Yeah.
Since it come out, I thought that why wouldn't you want at least your hook bait to be more attractive than everything else you're putting out there? It was a no-brainer.
Yep.
So from the very early days, I've had lots of different pots with some of the thinner goos like the Supremes, and cutting into the bait so that it's continually leaking off. I mean, the pineapple's been one of my favourites from the get-go.
The pineapple Supreme, that
The
is,
Supreme,
isn't it?
yeah,
Rather than the power smoke. Yeah.
Yeah, power smoke's a bit different. I use the Supremes a hell of a lot for for getting, as I just said, getting me hook baits, whether they be pop-ups.
They penetrate, don't they? Because that's worth adding to people, because a lot of people don't realise, they think that they're either all the same or they're all like, there's this sort of, I don't know what the word is, like a mental block about them, but it's easy to explain. The Supremes penetrate into the bait. If it's got the word Supreme on it, means it's quite of a watery consistency, and they're the ones you love soaking your wafters and pop-ups in.
Anything I can, mate. I mean, from when we first met the South Africans, had a really good in-depth discussion with them regarding it, be it a tiger nut, a wafter, a pop-up. The longer you leave them putting the Supremes on, it cuts right in, quite literally through to the core.
Right through to the core. Let's walk this way, because this is going over to your line. We'll carry on this lovely chat, Spooner, before I wipe your lines out.
Yeah, well, yeah, not for the first time.
So, yeah, see, the Supremes soaking in.
Yeah, and then after that, they go up in with, we've got the bait smokes, and then you've got the power smokes as well. Now, as you know as well as I do, there's quite a few different consistencies making their way through the range. It's not just as blatant as that's a thick one, that's a thin one. And I think that's another common misconception. But the thick ones especially, they come into their own sort of, I use them a lot on my stick, my PVA mixes, be it on the outside of a stick, actually in with the mixes as well. Just to give that, especially in this sort of fishing, as we've pointed out, we put out a large bed of bait, and there's a lot of everything in there. Yeah. And I want to get the bite as quick as I can.
The banger on the mash.
I want the bite to come as quick as possible. Yeah. And I think having my little hook
or
bait.
Or dare I say it, Spooner? The nipple on the. You say the rest.
I'm not saying anything.
But yeah, I see what you mean. You've got a lot of food out there, a lot of signals, so that the actual bait, your orbit around your hook bait needs to be a signal that is so much more than everything else around it.
That's right, mate. They're all the bits we're putting into the spod mix are giving off the stuff to draw the fish down to the area, but you still want to hone them to your hook bite. I mean, you can look at a load of gravel on the deck, and you can imagine one of those is your boilie, so you want it a different colour, different flavour. You said it, colour and taste are very, very important, especially when you mix them together.
You're short of time as well, Neil, aren't you? You don't have a lot of time in your fishing, so I presume having a hook bait that stands out 99.9% of the time for your fishing is critical?
It is, mate. A lot of my fishing's overnighters, so in the hours of darkness as well, so I don't always have time to get on the fish and find them. So I want to believe that when I'm camped out, when I'm set up, that everything's out there working as much for me as possible. And the goo has been the perfect answer.
Yeah, got you.
Oh, he looks all right, Al.
Yeah, it looks like a nice fish, that one. Yeah.
And now, since the new flavours are coming out, that I've been using them for a little while, and we're trialling them here. Yeah. A couple of them already.
The crab is spectacular. The vindaloo, you can tell with its spice factor.
When you taste it, I mean, it's so
fiery, mate, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's exactly like it says on the tin. The mango nana.
That's going to go down quickly. It's one of my favourites. It's already gone on to some mainline IB wafters, yellow in colour. I know it's a bit cliche, but having a fruity bait onto yellow, but it just works for me. Especially, with winter time as well. A lot of my fishing's in the winter, my own personal fishing. And again, I've always liked that dulled yellow colour with plenty of leakage coming off of it. Seriously, you've got to give it a try. You've got to, I appreciate this, there's 24 in the range now, which is obviously a lot, and you probably can't have all 24 bottles on you. But you can
They're all unique though, aren't they? That's the thing, people don't realise. It's not just flavour that separates them, it's taste, it's different essential oils, different natural ingredients.
That's right.
Different pHs as well, that in different lakes. When you're fishing on, I'll tell you what, you want to get that net from me as well.
Mate, he's getting a bit close.
Yeah, I'll just carry on adding to what Spooner's going to say there. When different lakes are going to have different sort of acidities or alkalinity levels, and then quite simply having a hook bait that stands out, I liken it to walking into a lovely kitchen. Go on, fishy, get in that net. Walking into a kitchen or into a room and getting that big aroma of that lovely meal, and it just turns you on, doesn't it? Makes you hungry. Well done, mate. Thanks for that info.
Cheers,
mate. There we go, my old chum. A bronze bruiser from Brasenose. What do you say about that? Fish number 9.
Yep.
And the bites have kept coming, and it just shows if you put that beer can down and don't sit there staring at the rods, blaming your bait, getting on Twitter, blaming the rigs, it just shows if you put it in, the results are there to be had.
It does, mate. Look at the bites there. There was a few of the bites that we had that after just putting a spommer bait out, you know, it was that they're looking for it, and when that noise coming in brings them back, just gives you that chance. Work at it, you know.
That's dinner bell, dinner bell, dinner bell, carp.
Benvenuti Italia, which means welcome to Italy. And for this leg of masterclass, we're calling it the Italian job, because it's a couple of English blokes out in Italy trying to nick a few bars of gold out of a lovely Italian mountain lake. Very similar to a lot of Italian lakes that I've fished before. Dammed at one end, stream at the other end. And this one is unique in that it's got a lot of very big fish in it. And I've literally just landed one within 3 or 4 minutes of putting the rods out, and now the left hand rod's gone off, which is not being fished to the far margin. The other rods are out to the far margin. We're going to talk about snag fishing, we're going to talk about using a boat and all the kit required to do that. Just got to be aware of this other line because he's right underneath it. I've been here once before, about a month ago, just to case the joint out, and had them up to 50 pound and a few 40s as well. The one languishing in the net there that doesn't look very secure at all is probably a mid-20. This one feels like a decent fish. And I can already tell you that I caught this one on the last trip, because we nicknamed it the shark because of its dorsal fin. And we're obviously going to be showing you all the rigs that we're using. And obviously all the hardware and everything as well. Just got to be careful with this tree. The lake itself doesn't get fished that much, so the swims are a little bit overgrown. But I'm sure we're not going to let that affect us. Okay, Sharky, in you come. Ooh, out of the tree. Get in that net. Yes, get, oh, come on, in you come. In you come. God, that was a bit hairy. Get in the net. It's about 12 foot long, that's why. There he is, in the net. Thank God for that. Not very professional, but it's in. What a way to start our Italian adventure. 37.5 pounds, an absolute beast of a carp. And we nicknamed him the shark because his dorsal sticks up like a shark's. The other one went 26.5 pounds, an absolutely scale perfect common. And the rods are in the water 10 minutes and 2 amazing fish on the bank. I wonder what tomorrow holds. Well, it's the first bite of day 2. It's taken quite a long time to happen. Had a few single bleeps and stuff. Finally it's roared off. And the hardware I'm using for this trip is sort of mid-range kit. It's not the top end, it's not the cheapest. Fish is coming in pretty quick towards me, which is probably a ploy. Normally they, there we go, back in contact with it again now. It's a longbow, 12 foot 3 3/4, and I always use a powerful set of rods if I can, because I like there to be something left in the rod, a bit more power to pull harder if you need to. There he is on the top there. They've still got a lovely battle curve, and that's coupled with a cross cast S reel, which is basically the cheapest big pit reel that Dyer would do, and they still perform brilliantly. Really powerful retrieve on them, even though these are a cheap big pit reel by comparison to your Bayesiers and that sort of thing. They've got a lovely clutch on them, and they've got a quick drag system as well. So basically, so you can wind up the clutch very, very quickly. There's no bite and run facility or no free spool facility, and that's how I fish 90% of the time. And in this sort of fishing, I'm fishing completely locked up, so the clutch can't go at all when the rods are sitting in the rests. There he is, right under our feet. And the line on these is 20 pound touchdown, which is the low stretch mono that's new in the range this year. And it's perfect for this kind of fishing because you want to know about a bite as quickly as possible. And with a low stretch line, you know about it that little bit sooner, and that helps you to be on the rod quicker. And these reels take 250 metres of 20 pound perfectly. There he is out there. And if you wanted to fish further out with this setup, I'd just use a lighter version of the touchdown. So it's underrated, so basically it breaks at much higher than the stated breaking strain. So this 20 pound breaks at 28 pound. It's 043 diameter. The 15 pound is 040, that breaks at over 20. And the 12 pound is 035, and that breaks at about 18 or 19 pounds. So very, very good knot strength in this line. Sinks really well, almost as good as subline, and it's perfect for this sort of fishing. I can see he's a low 20 common. He's still giving a very good account for himself, did all his fighting under the rod tip. And when you're playing fish on powerful rods like this, it's important to keep the rod tip up. So if he does lunge, you can let the rod drop down a bit. I don't know if he's a common or a fully scaled mirror, very strange scaling. I can see he's absolutely nailed on this hybrid D-rig, getting that net. First one of the day. Lovely, wicked. And how about that to start off today's proceedings? 24.5 pounds, a proper fully scaled. And it just goes to show you don't need top end rods and reels to catch beauties like this. second bite for me on the left hand rod, and this rig is pretty much identical to the rigs being used on all 3 rods. It's a D rig, but not made with my favourite IQ, basically because we're snag fishing, and IQ being a monofilament, if it touches a snag it's more likely to go, so I'm using the hybrid stiff material but straight through, and I'm crimping it at the lead system end. Decent fish, and that crimping works best on the hybrid stiff. It's a very stiff material, very robust coating, and it turns a 20-pound breaking strain material into a 28-pound breaking strain material, and it's tied exactly the same way. My favourite whipping knot goes on first, and then the micro rig swivel on next, then a simple knotless knot, very simple to tie through the eye, so the line exits on the point side, so the hook always turns down into the fish's bottom lip, and then a large size sinker goes on. That just helps everything lay flat on the bottom, and then a link loop is crimped on at the other end to finish it off. And having such a robust hook link on just gives you that added security when you're snag fishing, that if it does come into contact with anything, it's not going to get cut through. And that is coupled with my favourite lead system for this kind of fishing, which is the cog lead, the centre of gravity lead. And this is only a light one because this rod's actually fished in the soft bottom. So this is a 2.5 ounce cog, and I'm using 4s and 5 ounces on the longer rods because I'm fishing on harder bottom and I'm further out, so I need a heavier lead to make sure I don't move it as I row back, and obviously that increases the hooking potential further still. And that is just finished off. Oh, just touch that other rod. That's just finished off with some of the dark matter rig tube, my absolute favourite rig tubing. Just a short length of that, and that just protects the fish from the abrasive action of the mono during the fight. And obviously, I mean, in this situation, because we're dropping it over a boat, it doesn't really matter about anti-tangle because you can see it going down through the water, but I keep it on because it's better for the fish. And the whole rig is finished off with, on this occasion, a slow sinking mainline peaches and cream hook bait. When I came here to test fish last time, that was by far the best colour and flavour that I used. And fishing over the top of these Banoffee free offerings, it just seems to work an absolute treat. And if you're going to tie the rig, the buoyancy of the hook bait is critical. The hook should lay flat on the bottom and the bait should just hover above, and that obscures the sight of the hook but keeps the bait and the hook very close together, and means that when the fish sucks in the bait, the hook has got to go in the mouth. And I'm using big hooks here because we're snag fishing for big fish. I'm using size 2s. This is a size 2 crank. I've had bites on size 2 wide gape X's, which are super strong, and I've got some size 2 curves with me as well to use. Mega confident with all those patterns. They're all very secure, very sharp, and when you're fishing for big fish in such snaggy conditions, you want the security of having a big hook on the end that isn't going to open out, and especially with the beaked points of the wide gape X and the crank, you just know that once they're in, they're not coming off. Okay, he's tiring now. You can see he's absolutely nailed. Important not to pull too hard at this point. On such a short line like this, that's when you can pop a hook out. He's absolutely nailed. I can see he's nailed, but just don't panic at this stage, and just gently coax him into the net. Come on, big carp, in you get. Yes, get in. That is wicked. And there he is, an Italian bar of gold, just over 33 pounds this one. Absolutely nailed on that hybrid stiff D rig. It's so important when you're snag fishing to have a really robust hook link, and because that's got braid on the inside and a stiff coating on the outside, it's just perfect for the job. And this one was absolutely nailed on that crank. A size 2, nice big strong hook, that's what you need. And hopefully there's more of these to come. They're twice as big in here as this one, over 60 pound. So let's hope we make contact with one of those later in the session.
Well, if you've been wondering what I've been doing all day, quite simple. I've been sat up here blanking my proverbials off because, to be fair, we got the rods out yesterday evening just for a couple of hours. Dan had those fish very, very quickly, and I sat here excited, expecting action. Absolutely bugger all. And the rods came in because the camera crew were leaving and we wanted to sort of get the lines out and make sure we weren't fishing overnight, just in case we caught one of the big uns and the cameras weren't here to enjoy it with us. So the rods went back out today, and to be honest with you, it has been dead as a doornail. And if I'm honest with you, if you cut a line from Dan's middle rod up this way, I don't think there's been a bean up here. Maybe the odd single carp floating around, but there's been no feeding activity, no fish showing. And when that happens, it's absolutely vital that you keep your head, because on these longer sessions, it's very simple. You know, a blank day when your mate's catching down the bank, you can start to lose the plot. You can start to mess around, change rigs, you know, keep going out in the boat, repositioning things, thinking that there's this mysterious shoal of carp out there that you just ain't catching. That hasn't been the case. A little while ago, about sort of 7 o'clock, I went out and went back to the spots where I've been fishing. This was to redo the rods for the evening. And I looked, and the water was tap water clear around there, and I could see the bait that's been there from pretty much yesterday, so it hasn't been touched. And when that happens, all you can do is keep persevering. There are fish to Dan's left. The majority, I would say, of the lake stock are down from Dan's left down, which is why he's been catching fish on his left and his middle rod. He's been very kind to say that tomorrow, if nothing's happening up here in the day, that I can head down there and hopefully winkle a few fish out that might just push that shoal back up here. For now, it's a matter of keeping my head, keep plodding away on the spots that I'm fishing, and hopefully one of those big Italian monsters that would be my first Italian carp, I have to add, will be very, very welcome. So hopefully one will come along in not too long.
Welcome to Baiting Up. It's another idyllic morning out here in Italy, and first and foremost is boat safety. And you can see I've got a self-inflating life jacket on. Doesn't matter what kind of life jacket you wear, as long as it's done up and it's powerful enough to suit your body weight, and that's really, really important. If you've got loads of clothes on and you're a big guy, then you need to tell the people that you're going to be wearing all those clothes when you buy the life jacket, because they may not be man enough to keep you afloat, and if you hit your head on the side as you go over the boat, that can be the end of you. And European anglers, unfortunately, meet their end every year using boats for fishing, and the less clothes you can have on, the better, because all they do is soak up water and make you heavier. And obviously chest waders are an absolute no-no as well, because if they fill up with water, they will drag you down. So we're approaching the far side now. This particular rod is fished closer to the trees than any of the others, and what I've basically done is staggered them. The fish are coming from the thin end of the lake down to here, and let's just spin ourselves round. And I'm basically fishing progressively closer to the trees to hopefully open up a pathway for the fish to get down to this area. If my left-hand rod was really close to the trees, it could potentially cut the other rods off. So by going progressively closer, hopefully any rod could go. And I'm baiting up just with boilies. I'm using the high impact. On this particular rod, I'm going to start using the spicy crab today, because I've done so well on it before. That session at Carpason's proved how good these baits are, and there's no better thing than to see the fish actually excreting bait in the sling, so it shows that they're eating it and it's going through them really quickly. And these ready-mades for me are not like normal ready-mades. They taste far better, they've got much better nutritional content, and everywhere we've taken them they've worked. So basically I'm oiling both of them up. Let's put a few out while we're talking. I'm oiling both of them up. These spicy crabs have got FOSS oil on, and that just enhances the attractiveness of the bait. I'm just pouring it on 24 hours before and letting it soak into the baits. And when you haven't got big bream problems or sturgeon or anything, then fish meals are a brilliant way to get the fish feeding. If you do have problems with those sort of fish, then you need to swap onto a bird food, and I've found the banoffee is the absolute best one I've ever used. Certainly in these situations I've got banoffee on the other two rods and it's been really successful. The fish absolutely love it everywhere I've taken it. But I'm going to try a different baiting situation on this rod today, just to see if I can tempt some different fishing, because some fish have got different preferences when it comes to taste. I'm still going to fish a bright one on the top, so I've got a peaches and cream slow sinker fished over the top of it. But a white one over the top of some dark ones can be really good. So let's just, I'm just moved out of position slightly while I've been talking, so I'll just scull back up. I tend to reverse the boat and then just scull in to the area at the last minute, just so you can see what you're doing. I'm putting out probably half a kilo, I would say, something like that, over each baited area when I start. At the beginning of the session I'd put more out, probably a couple of kilos over each rod, and then right, let's just stabilise the boat again, so we're standing still. There we go, just one or two rows in the opposite direction, and then we'll just swing him out. Out she goes. Donk. Lovely and hard there on the bottom. A little bit of line out to basically just stretch the tubing out, and then come back and let it all go slack, and then I'll just carefully scull out of the area. Keep an eye on where you're going. Back to the swims, you want to go back as straight as humanly possible. This touchdown sinks really well, and you don't want it sinking in a big snaking line, because it's very difficult to get it straight again. And because I'm fishing pretty close to the snags, I want to be in contact with the fish as quickly as possible. A couple more, just light baitings. If you throw it further, it tends to spread out a bit more. There we go, one more of those. That'll do. Okay, now one last thing. For the line coming off the reel, I just use the scoop on the reel there and just wet the line on the reel so it comes off that little bit easier, so it doesn't catch. Doesn't really matter here so much because the bottom's pretty clean out here. There's no weed, so you're not going to pull it into weed, but you don't want it catching and potentially dragging the lead. I'm only using 4-ounce cogs on these rods because it's not windy and the bottom's, you know, it's firm but it's not gravel, and I don't want a great big lead to be pulling the rig in at all and potentially making it hard for the fish to get the bait in its mouth. So on these particular places, that's how I'm baiting up, little and often. I'm not putting tons and tons of bait in, and just enough to get a bite, and then back out again and do it again. And on the bigger lakes, you know, I fished Lac du Der, which is 16,000 acres. You're putting a lot more bait in. You know, the fish are grazing over a huge area. It might be, you know, might be 1,000 acres, the bit of the lake that you're actually fishing. And in that situation, I tend to put out boilies and tiger nuts. Just keep that line nice and straight. I put a lot more bait in at the start, 5 kilos, maybe 10 kilos of bait spread over a couple of tennis courts, I suppose, with all 3 rods amongst it, and then keep topping up every time you go out. but it's a misconception that us guys that get our bait for free use tons and tons of it. I only use a lot of bait if I'm getting a lot of bites. You know, you can do this sort of fishing on pretty much any budget and still catch loads of big uns.
Well, it's the middle of pretty much our second full day here at this beautiful lake in Italy, and it was a pretty hectic night for me. I managed to catch my first Italian carp, not the biggest, probably just shy of the 20-pound mark, and I followed it up with another one through the night, and I actually lost one earlier on in the evening. So all was good. This morning, I got up nice and early, and the plan was to head down to where the fish were showing to Dan's left. Got down there, got a couple of rigs out. Just between putting the first rod out and the second one lunked out there. It was all looking wicked. Rods went out, lo and behold, there was nothing left there within probably 30 minutes of casting. Saw no signs of fish. Everything seemed to move out. And not only did I kill it down there, I seemed to have killed the action for Dan as well, because I think the fish were holding up to his left and then moving up, and that's how he was picking them off. Exactly how we concluded yesterday. So, lo and behold, look at this weather. It's picked up, the wind's pumping down to the end that I've been in. This morning as well, before I moved down, I was quite cute in the way that I went back out there and actually fed the spots that I've been fishing to keep the bait going in, because that's important. If you're going to clear the lines out, why not put a bit of grub in and get some of these wily, big old Italian carp back there having a munch? So I went out there, put some grub in, and hopefully they've had a little feast, because they've definitely not been down there. They've not been on Dan. So when you look at the lake in thirds, there's only one place they could have been if they've been feeding. So I'm going to get this rod out and I'm going to look at some new bite indicators. Cool, that was a drama. If you're wondering why the conditions have changed in between me putting the rod on the rest and casting, well, quite simple. Basically, the heavens opened as the lead landed, so the camera crew had to scarper. But what I'm going to do now is show you an ingenious new product by Delkim. It's been designed by the man himself, Del Romang, and it's called the Slim Light indication system. So what I'm going to do is attach this one to my right hand rod. Lovely, perfect. Now this is a patented prototype, so when the production ones come out they could look slightly different, but the important things are it's going to be available and is an illuminated bobbin in all of the normal Delkim LED colours. So the bit that illuminates it is this brilliant little cable here, much thinner than the Nightlight Pro and the ES indication system. But the important factor about this whole design is this bobbin that has a patented design within it. Now in there are two different clips. You've got basically at the top, you've got the magnetic ball bearing system, if you like, and then underneath you have a clip that basically grips the line, similar to a stow bobbin. So it sandwiches the line, giving you two different options. Now let me show you how it works, because this brilliant little stabilizer system here allows the indicator to go up and down. So basically it's like a duo carb, all the sort of same fittings. It's attached to a D-lock there, which I've got on this multi-pod by Signet. And the only difference really is there's no end that's gripping the actual nightlight system. So the Slim Light works in a different manner to the nightlight in the way that it moves up and down this stabilizer. So giving you a really, really sexy little design. And one final point while we're on the subject of the stabilizer, you'll be wondering why on earth do we actually need one on a bobbin? Well, quite simple. The same as the nightlight system and the duo carb, it stabilizes it during windy conditions. The last thing you want is a load of false bleeps as the bobbin swings left and right, and this just allows it to act exactly how it should, with vertical movement up or down like that. Up and down it goes, looks absolutely brilliant. Now let me detach this from the line, because I'm going to be able to show you a very clever way that they've got the weight adjustment. So if you want a real weighted bobbin, you've got options here. You've got 3, 5 and 10 gram weights, which are interchangeable. Now look, like our flying back leads and also our no trace system, Del's also got a slot here in the weight, and all you do, screw it off the thread, take that off, and you can use whatever weight you want, whether it's the 3, the 5 or the 10. You can just swap them in and out as you wish based on the conditions and the range you're fishing, the weight of lead, whatever you want to do. That gives you all the options you need to make quick changes without having to detach bobbins or unscrew heads and everything else. It's really, really quick. And to be honest with you, even though the bites I've had so far have been at night, just watching them, you know, because you can get the delkim to tune in with it. So by switching on the 4 pips, if you like, holding the button down, you get the night lights on the delkim itself, and obviously that's mimicked at the bobbin end as well. So anything that you see on the delkim is represented on the bobbin, whether it's 1 bleep or 55 bleeps to a screamer, you'll see it all there. So it's a really, really clever system. And as you'll see, it's complemented by all the delkim mod cons that I've got on here. As I've mentioned, the D-lock, you've got the ears here as well. They look so sexy, where you get the different battery plate at the back. Everything's so streamlined. They really have worked it well, and it's complemented finally by the smart clip that I've become a real fan of. You would have seen me use it loads of times on thinking tackle now. I've had some great bites on Bayswater. You hear the old ding of the clip as it roars off. Really, really good. And Del always got his thinking cap on. It's a bit of a tackle tart, and you can see it in these brand new bobbins.
Well, conditions have improved dramatically in the last couple of hours, and I'm into a decent fish on the middle rod. I've basically been out there, I've changed positions on this rod. I've had a good prod round with the prodding stick, and it's very soft straight in front of me, but I've found as I've come away from the trees, unusually, it's got hard at the bottom, and the use of a prodding stick is absolutely invaluable when you're using a boat. The new Signet ones just screw together, so they store really easily. They go into their own carry case, which will go in your quiver or your rod bag, and they've got markings down the side to tell you how deep it is in feet and in metres, and a nice flat button on the bottom to help you feel what the bottom's like. And not only can the prodding stick tell you small variances in depth, but obviously when the bottom goes from soft to hard, they're brilliant places. Just on the sort of join between the two, that's a brilliant place to have a bait. And obviously you want to know that your rig isn't sinking down into the soft mud, and I use them when I'm using a boat in the UK or abroad, and in the UK they're really helpful to tell you what is beyond swannable depth. I fish a lake in the UK that's got a real big problem with swans, always off, and sort of anything over 4.5 foot seems to be just too deep for them to get the baits, and I use one a lot there. And those markings up the side of it are invaluable for seeing how deep it is and knowing that where your rig's sitting can't be got by the swans. It's off again. It's obviously a decent fish, this one. My legs are shaking. And if you're looking for, or once you've found a spot out in open water, then you want to be marking that area. And Mr. Damien Clark, after his first session at Rainbow, has designed a new H-block. The problems typically with H-blocks is they're hollow, so they tend to take water on, and sometimes they don't come up to the surface as quickly as they should, and Damien solved both those problems. He's made a solid but very buoyant H-block, and he's basically shaved the ends of the H down so that it spins in the water much faster, and by doing that the lead gets to the bottom quicker. And if you're drifting in the boat and trying to mark a spot you found with the echo sounder or the prodding stick, the quicker that lead gets to the bottom, the closer you are to your spot. And then you can drop a rig out and right next to the marker, and then once back on the bank you can go out again and either drop the marker sort of 10 or 20 yards past where you're fishing so that you don't pick it up when you get a take, or alternatively use a handheld GPS, which are absolutely brilliant bits of kit. You can mark the spot to within a metre with those, and if you're fishing the great big open lakes that are found all around Europe, they're a brilliant bit of kit for getting back out there day or night and getting back on that hot spot. Oh. Well, ladies and gents, if you're wondering why I'm soaking wet, I've just slipped in trying to get the angle on this fish. It kited into the left, and then by expertly slipping in and letting the line go slack for a minute, the fish has moved away from the snag and ended up back out in front of me. Feels like a real nice fish. He's sort of in between the other two lines now. Little twitch on that left hand line. He's just going back the other way again. Try and guide him in between the two and then slot the rod between. He's definitely underneath him now. See the hooks in his bottom lip. He's not a monster, but he's very powerful. And this is on a different rig to the ones I've been using. It's on a bottom bait version of the multi-rig. And what I've basically done is used the hybrid stiff material, and I've basically crimped a loop in the end of it, and I'm pushing the loop through the eye of the size 4 choddy, and then putting on one of the new super large rig rings and tying the bait to that. And basically it means you can reuse the rig again and again just by loop to looping off the hook and putting a new one on, so the hook link stays on all the time. And it also means you've got a bit of doubled over super stiff material coming out of the eye of the hook, which is really good for helping the hook turn. So you've got a very, very easy rig to change, and one that's pretty effective as well. And I had them up to £50 on it last time I was here, and it was the first time I'd really used it, and this one looks like a decent one as well. Come on, big boy, in you come. Seen the net, but has he got enough strength? No, he hasn't. He's in the net. Get in! Oh man, that is wicked. Cheers, pal. Thank you. Cheers, mate. And there he is, £39, 12 ounces. Just missed the magical 40 by 4 ounces, but who cares? And as a result of changing spots, using the prodding stick, finding a hard spot when they're soft all around, that produced the bite. And if you want to see me falling in, wait to the end of the DVD.
This is the Multipod, a new design by Signet. Well, I say new, but apparently John Walker enlightens me that this was in circulation about 5 years ago, but for whatever reason, disappeared into the ether. It's back due to popular demand by the German and Austrian anglers, and you know what? I'm really pleased to be using it because, like the Grand Sniper Deluxe that I used a few years ago from Signet, and I've continued to use on trips abroad, this one is absolutely bang on. It just takes it to another level. Firstly, the added stability. This double centre bar here, which is extendable, I might add, so you can take it really long or keep it short like it is now, just gives it that added stability that you really, really need. If you're fishing left or right and you're snag fishing, the last thing you want is a fast take that literally pulls your pod over. The word multi-pod is a bit of a giveaway. If anything, it should be called the versatile pod because it is extremely versatile for various situations. Now, I've got it in quite a neutral situation here because earlier when I was fishing down the other end, I lowered it, and when I came back here, the wind was hacking. So the last thing I wanted was to have my tips high with a big crosswind, big bow in the lines when you're trying to snag fish. So I've lowered it just to get the line lower in the water. Now, talking about the actual height of it, like I say, if you're fishing on a big continental lake, you might be having a better weed, if you like, going 30, 40 yards out. What you want to do then is to obviously have your lines up so it's snaking over the top of them. A lot of pods, you might not be able to get it quite high enough. With this, you really can, because it comes complete with 4 different types of legs. You can quite literally have the rod tips right up there. It comes with what are called butt cups. The butts of the rod will drop into it. You can extend the pod fully out and the rods will be up there and your line will be going out for as far as you want really, probably 30, 40 yards, no problem. And the other thing that makes that simple is a feature that I really like on their pods. The Grand Sniper Deluxe has it, so does this. You have two little thumb screws on the buzzer bar. This is the 3-rod buzzer bar. This is what comes complete with it. The 4-rod one is an extra. But the important thing here, these thumb screws allow you to alter the angle of the alarm on the pod. So if you're fishing at higher up and your line's cutting through the alarm like that, your bite indication is reduced through the vibration system of the Delkim. By altering the angle, you're ensuring the line cuts through, bang central, bang level, covering the biggest part of the vibration sensor in the Delkim, giving you perfect bite indication. So it's a lovely feature, and obviously the backrest does it exactly the same. So you can alter them all and ensure the angles are up and down however you want to have it. And to finish it off, it comes complete with the signature Signet case for the pod that they like to put it all in. It's all in there nicely, tucks away, really beautiful bit of kit, goes down very compact, also lightweight, brilliant design. Well done, Johnny Walker.
Well, yet another bite on the left-hand rod. As I've said, I'm using 20-pound touchdown because obviously it's very, very thick line, very, very low stretch, and sinks well. But if these situations were far, far more aggressive than this, if I was fishing really close to the trees and I wasn't able to give the fish an inch of line because I was extracting them out of the trees the whole time, then I would swap from mono to braid, and I would use the Apex braid in 50-pound, either straight through or with an armour cord leader of 50-pound, and that really is belt and braces kit. And the only place you're going to need anything that I'm aware of anyway, that you're going to need anything stronger than that, is Rainbow. And Damien's been to Rainbow, and as a result has designed a range of tackle exactly for that kind of fishing. He's mad into snag fishing, Damien. He's had a load of big fish snag fishing where literally you've got to be on the rod in seconds, and having a braided line on means there's no stretch, and with a floating braid, even if you don't come back to the bank in the boat super straight, you can straighten it up because it's floating on the surface. And to join the two together, if you're joining armour cord to Apex, then personally I use a 4-turn water knot. And to do that, you basically lay both bits of line together and twist them round to form a huge loop. And then you're passing the spool of the leader and the tag end of the main line through that loop 4 times, and then carefully pulling it tight. And when it tightens up fully, you should see one strip of line, then another strip of line, then another strip of line, like that, so they alternate between the two. And that means it's been tied perfectly. Very, very small knot, very, very strong, and it's the one I prefer if I'm tying 2 monos or 2 braids of similar diameters together. Then that's what I use. And if, say in this situation, I was needing a snag leader on the end of the mono, then I would tie the Albright knot to connect the two. That's very, very simple. You just loop over the heavier section and then go through the loop with the lighter section, round and round, going down probably 5 or 6 times, and then a couple of times up over the top, and then back through the loop the way you came. That's really, really important. And then you want to be teasing the knot down very, very carefully. There he is, just on the surface. And that's a great way of attaching either 2 different kinds of materials, i.e. braid and mono, or a very light material to a heavy one. So a light mono to a heavy mono, or a light braid to a heavy braid. That's the one that I prefer in that situation. There we go. In you come on. In you come. This time. Gotcha! Wicked! And there you have it, 24 pounds of Italian gold. Well chuffed to get this one. And like I say, if it's not too severe, strong mono, and if it's proper savage, get on the apex.
There you go, 24.5 pounds of Italian slate grey mirror carp. Should have been more fish, to be fair. I was expectant, and early on in the evening, just where I'd had bites the previous night, nothing had happened, and I thought there's something not quite right here. So I wound in 2 of the rods that were bang on the money where I was suspicious the fish were. And lo and behold, the turtles that are in this lake had whittled down. They're more like terrapins, to be fair, and they'd whittled the baits to nothing. So I had no baits on when I should have been getting bites. So I went to the car, or Davide, one of our staff, went to his car and got me some of the Super Rat, one of our new products, and I gave that hook bait a bit of a bodyguard, and went back out there. Obviously a little bit of disturbance, but luckily the rod roared off within 2 hours, and this beautiful fish was the victim. Unfortunately though, the fish started showing to my right against the reeds to the right of the swim, and I thought I was going to get another bite. Nothing happened. This morning when I wound the rod in, the only rod that I didn't put the Super Wrap on, you guessed it, no bait and no carp. So there was a small window of opportunity last night when the fish were here in numbers. Caught one on the rods that I had bait on, and then the other rod that looked like it should go, there was no bait on. So there you go, the Italian job, not quite the job at the moment, but hopefully I'll get it right tonight and I could end on a lovely Italian carp. Something that I've done as a matter of course over the last few years when I've gone to various lakes across Europe and even in the UK is to wash my baits out. Now, for many years, people used to think the reason you wash your baits out is to make them look older, getting that flavour out, because the fish come along and think, oh look, that bait's been there for ages, it must be safe. That really isn't the case. I believe when they do get washed out, they soften up, and it takes it, you know, makes it that little bit easier for the fish to digest. It's more enjoyable. A softer bait, of course, they like harder baits, they like tigers, they like eating natural food like that. But when it comes to boilies and lakes that see a quantity of bait, I fished a syndicate called the Essex Manor. This method paid off really, really well, because you know why? There was anglers all across the lake on a small venue putting in 10 kilos each. You know, how can the fish eat that comfortably time after time? Well, the softening approach really paid off for me, and I was turning up, catapulting 10 boilies, a little pop-up in amongst it, and I was getting bites within half an hour. If I was putting out the sort of natural bait, if you like, straight out the bag, it would take a while, because it was almost like the fish were waiting for them to soften up before they ate them. So if I show you here, these are the baits I've been doing here. I've got a little mixture here, got like a little buffet bucket of the high impact bait by Mainline, the IB, the salty squid, the spicy crab in there. And in my other hand, I've got some of the banoffees. When Dan came over here on his little trial run, they paid off really well for him. So I've got them, but I'm going to show you, look, this is the difference. These are some that have just gone in, okay? So look, yep, giving it a good old squeeze, and that's how hard it is, if you like. And this is one that's been in for a little while. Look at the difference. Tiny little squeeze. In my weaker right hand, I like to add, bang, squashes down to mush in barely any pressure. Of course, if you're catapulting them out, not such a problem. If you want to use the throwing stick, that's when the harder baits do pay off, because you're not going to get them splitting. But if you want an example of why the softer baits do work so well, Mainline for many years have made naturally quite soft baits. And the only reason we've ever had them hardened is when we've want to use them in the sticks. But when I think back and track back through great sessions and times, when I've gone on trips, it's always been the softer baits, the ones I've had sweating in the bag that start to go soft and getting those sugars coming out of them, or the ones that I've washed out, you know, on Gigantica. Last few years, we all tend to wash our baits out. Damien Clark goes over there on holiday, washing them out. Dovey, me, Dan. I know Jake Wildboar caught a fish called the Immaculate, an old one out of Scotty's Corner, I believe. Again, washed out baits with a white banoffee over the top of it. It's no coincidence. Big carp find it easier to eat. So if you want a little easy tip of how to do it, doesn't take a rocket scientist. Bag of boilies, straight in the water. Really is as easy as that. And I'm going to add some of these salty squid ones in as well into this other bucket. I'm just going to leave that for a few hours. They'll start to soften up. mix in with the other ones, and then in no time at all, they'll be ready to go out. I think this little approach does work for me. Statistically, it seems to keep doing the do over the years, and these Italian carp don't seem to mind either when they turn up at night.
I'm fishing under the Tempest version 2, and I've watched other people fish under Tempest for quite a few years now, stuck with my Trident, or in more recent years my Cayman, and it wasn't until we went to Belgium and I saw how quickly Daryl was setting up his bivvy and putting it away again that I thought I've just got to have one. And I've used it once in Belgium, and it is a joy to put up. Basically out of the bag, it's literally one fold, putting the 5 poles together, you then fan it out, and then literally the mechanism comes over the top. There's a little ring that goes onto it to lock it in place, and the bivvy is up. And then on from that, 1 peg in the back, 2 pegs in the front, and it's stable enough to fish under, you know. And when you're fishing like we are in Belgium, where we're moving around the lake time after time after time, with a normal pram hood bivvy, you sort of loathe putting the bivvy away. But with one of these, you actually look forward to getting it in the bag and getting it up somewhere else, because it is so easy to use. And the coverage inside it is absolutely brilliant. Because it's quite, sort of goes back a long way inside the bivvy, you can get your bed chair a long way back, so it gives you a lot of room at the front of the bivvy. And this version 2, they've just upgraded everything that they possibly can. So inside the poles, you've got a wire inside them rather than a piece of elastic, so it never wears out. The poles are now black, which makes it look a million times better, and that Aquatex material has changed colour as well to a really rich green. It just looks lovely. And then features wise on the bivvy, you've got a zip off front on this version 2. You can see here I've got it with the mozzie panels exposed. The mozzies are terrible here in Italy, so at night I'm basically, the front's down as well, the mozzie panel is exposed so I can still see the rods if I'm fishing, and the mozzies can't get you at all. You just have to get the few that are already in there, and then you have a lovely night's kip. Now obviously these roll back to have a solid front, so if it's absolutely hammering down and the wind's going in your face, you can have everything down and just have a little letterbox there that you can look through, because I always like to see the lake even if it's raining. And then at the back we've got 2 vents as well at the back. Just roll those up and there's just little toggles to go under. That reduces the temperature of the bivvy when it's sunny by probably 10 degrees or more. It makes such a difference, and that's a lovely little feature that I think Tracker came out with first. And this whole system comes with a ground sheet as well. Ali's using it, I've not bothered because the ground's lovely and flat here and it's the middle of summer. And if I was moving around a lot, it's just another thing that you've got to roll up. And it also comes with these storm poles as well. That basically holds it up because it's quite heavy, this front. And if you didn't have those on, it would sag down a little bit. But it's a beautifully shaped bivvy, loads of coverage. And this now comes in different sizes. So you've got the Tempest Air, which is a little bit smaller, hasn't got the front, is a little bit cheaper. And then there's like a 2-man version of this one, which is absolutely huge. And they've done that really in response to demand from European anglers. They love a big bivvy, so they've done a Tempest in a big bivvy. You're going to pay more for this than you will for a standard bivvy in most other people's ranges, but the mechanism on the top and the way it goes up is worth every extra penny. And if you watch someone putting one of these up and then you're struggling to put yours up and it's raining, believe me, at that point you would have paid the extra money to get this bivvy. So that's the bivvy itself. Let's have a look inside. As you can see, loads of room inside. Got a big bed chair here. This is the level light, and this is the ELS version, which means extra lumbar support. What that means is in the middle bit, it's not bungee, it's rope, so it's really tight. And I think you get a better night's kip on him. Very proud of this one because I actually worked with Tracker on this to get it dead right. There's no ratchet on a level light bed, so it's just a clip and it's open in seconds, and you can get it perfectly flat for a better night's kip. And then on top of that, I've got a layers sleeping bag, and basically the top layer is wafer thin. Then you can get into that in the summertime when it's really hot like now, and it just gives you a little bit of extra warmth. And then in the winter you get into the bottom section, so you've got 2 layers on top of you, 1 layer underneath, and that's fleece as well, and that keeps you warm in the winter time. So that's a really good product for all through the year. I've got a bed chair buddy on top of that. I could not fish without one of these. It saves your back so much, especially when you're doing long sessions. And basically the rest of my kit can be kept round the back. I've got a big carry-all behind me with all my tackle in it. There's a little food bag there as well. The bits I'm going to go to all the time I have at the front. The bits I'm going to use every now and again I'll have set up at the back. Obviously you've got your kettle and everything there so you can have your cups of tea. And basically this is the way I set the bivvy out pretty much every time I go fishing. I can get to the stuff I need and I can see my rods as well. Oh, it's only a bite. It is a bite. Middle rod has just roared off on the cog lead again, and this one is on a 4-ounce cog, flat pair style, and this shape is going to go right up to 10 ounces eventually for the anglers fishing rainbow and the big lakes out in Europe. You'll have to excuse me, I'm going to have to get the other side of the swim because he's kiting right, sorry, left as usual. Oh, every single fish is going this same way. Come on, turn the other way. Right up near the surface. Oh, come on. Just ease off on him, see if I can get him to come round. Eased right off on the fish, and hopefully I can just walk him past the snags here. Come on fella, just slowly, slowly. Yes, he's coming back this way, wicked. So yeah, this is on a pear-shaped cog. They start at 2.5 ounces and they're going to go, like I say, right up to 10 ounces. And the number on the boom that you use to complete the cog system is the same number that's printed on the back of the lead. It's a nice carp. So getting the length of the boom is getting it right is absolutely critical. If it's too long, it's baggy and sometimes can cause a tangle, and if it's too short, the lead tends to sit a bit funny before you cast out. And I cast them all the time. We've had other people use them and said that they've experienced tangles. I've found if you just feather the cast and stop it before it hits the water, you get no problems at all. A little bit of dissolving foam really helps, but if you're using a boat like we are, it just can't tangle. And to me, if you're fishing on hard bottom and using a boat, there is no other lead system to use other than this cog, because it's so aggressive. The fish is picking up the full weight of the lead instantly. There's nothing that can compete with it for a bolt effect. And it comes in a distant shape as well, and that's obviously more for casting. Still flat, really important for it to be flat, so it sits flat on the bottom and doesn't roll over on its side. And the distance size goes up at the moment to 4 ounces. If we get asked for larger ones, we will make them, but for casting that seems to be sort of the most popular big lead. And I've used this at Gigantica in testing up to like 120 yards. Still cast really well, not as good as a normal lead clip system, but you still cast well enough to get a decent distance. And all my bites over the last couple of days have come over half baits. This one's over a banoffee freebie. Oiling them up with the hemp oil. I do that all the time. It's such a lovely taste, the hemp oil, and it just gives the banoffies another dimension, and you know that they're eating it. When you get big flat spots come up on the surface, you know that the fish are out there and they're eating it. And I resisted the temptation of putting out the left-hand rod after a fish because I saw the slicks coming up. It was obvious they were on this right-hand or this middle rod spot as well. And going out in the boat could have spooked them away. So having that oil on, not only does it improve the bait, but it tells you when they're eating it. And the halves, they just go out so lovely out of a catapult or out of a little baiting spoon that I'm using at the moment. They make hardly any splash, and they just spread so well. Right, I'm going to have to come around the other side of the rods just to net him. Oh, another decent common. Looks like the big ones have turned up. This one is on the multi-rig again, but this time I've got it with a size 2 crank, and he looks like he's absolutely nailed. Come on, big fella, get in that net. Come on, you big Italian monster, get in! Yes, wicked! That is brilliant. He's proper angry, this one. 43 pounds, 12 ounces. Can't keep him still. Let's see if we can show you him. That'll do. Okay, let's get him back. Off you go, my love. Look at this. Can't keep him still. Back to get bigger. Wicked. Well, we're trying to put one fish back. Oh, one's just shown out there as well. I can see there's a slick out there as well, so they're all over me at the moment. And this is second bite on the right hand rod today, and I've moved it up a little bit closer to the other two which have been going consistently, and that's produced a couple of chances. This is still on a peaches and cream hook bait, but this time it's fished over the top of the spicy crab, which is one of my favourites in the high impact range, and quite timely actually, because what I'm going to do is swap now to a spicy crab hook bait on this rod and match the hatch, because I had a stunning 47 pound common earlier on a banoffee matching. Oh, he's going right into the edge. Come on fella, turn round. Oh. That's it, he's out. Come on. Crazy Italian carp. So many have tried to do me round the corner here. As I was saying, I'm going to match the hatch from now on, because it produced a big fish earlier on, and it's something that I do a lot in my fishing when I'm session fishing. If I'm getting loads of bites, then I'll swap from the higher tracks. Peaches and cream has been by far the best one so far, and I start matching what I'm feeding, because I've been eating it for the last few days and not getting caught on it, and hopefully it's going to produce some more big uns. Get you in, get your mum in the net. In you come, in you come. Gotcha! Wicked. Still fighting. How about that for one for the future? Wicked. Mwah. See you later, gorgeous. Just easing off the pressure again. The fish has gone well left, and I've got a line of trees to my left, and I've just found if I ease off sometimes, this one isn't doing it, but sometimes they go back the other way. This one is not doing it. This is going to be tricky. It's going to be a miracle if we get this in. It's still moving. Oh, I feel it grating on these trees in the edge. Oh, I'm going to have to put the chesties on and go in. This still on, he's taking line. See if I can get out and get the angle on him. Yes, he's away. How about that? Thank God for size 2 cranks. It's a decent common as well. Now I've got to get back without slipping in. A lovely dark common. Don't come off now, please, after all that. Come on, fella. Get in the net. Get in the net. Yes! Got him! Ah! What a battle that was. Well, ladies and gents, when your name's on it, it really is on it. And after an epic battle and it being snagged up in the trees, it's finally mine. 31 pounds. And this one is also on a match the hatch hook bait. So I've been feeding the high impact panoffies for the last 4 days, and I've only switched over to matching hook baits in the last 24 hours, and it produced that amazing 47 pounder and this fella as well. The white peaches and cream are still doing it. They're probably the most successful one on this particular venue for the couple of sessions I've been here, and I've always got them in my box, but it's always worth switching to a match the hatch later on in the week when I've eaten loads of bait and not been caught on it. Welcome to the team Korda Masterclass on low-stocked big pit venues. We've chosen a water in central Belgium, a notoriously difficult lake. It's 80 to 100 acres, and we found out this morning there's only 120 known carp in here. There are obviously some big ones, and the lake record goes over 70 pounds. They're absolutely stunning fish. I fished the place probably 15, maybe 18 years ago, when obviously it was a completely different kind of lake. And I think the numbers have thinned out and the fish have got bigger over that time, and it's one of those circuit places that gets loads of attention. And over the next few sessions we're going to share with you everything that we learn about the lake and how our fishing evolves during that learning process, and you'll be able to put that into your own fishing on any low stock big pit water across Europe and across the world. I'm here with my good mate and unstoppable big fish angler Darryl Peck. We were chewing the fat in the van on the way over here, not really knowing what was in here. Would we be fishing at extreme range? Would we be fishing in the edge? We brought all the tackle to do everything at this stage, and I'm sure we will learn more about the lake as the sessions go on, and we'll be able to share that with you. New items of kit, specialist rigs to suit this kind of place, and specialist tackle as well. We arrived this morning, had a good walk round, didn't really expect to see anything. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning local time, bearing in mind we'd left England at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And like I say, didn't really expect to see anything. On our first lap of the lake, we got round to this part. There were loads of fish down the bank, so we flipped a coin. We both wanted the same swim, as you always do. Flipped a coin, Mr. Peck won, and he set up right on top of the fish, and they were showing really close in. And that's the first tip we can give you on these places. Let the fish tell you where to fish. We didn't go down in the wind and just set up in the wind and spray our rods out. We didn't go and fish at absolutely miles out just because we can. And if we hadn't seen fish on that first trip, we were prepared to lap and lap the lake until we found something worth fishing for. And we both thought we probably wouldn't see anything today. We'd wait until tomorrow morning, have a good look round at first light, which is the best time to see them, and then move on to fish then. But in true Darryl Peck style, he's caught 2 already. We're only here 2 hours and he had 2 in the net. And after a couple of epic battles, caught them really, really close in, 2 clonking fish, you know. And to be honest, if we caught 1 big fish over the next few sessions, we would have deemed that a result. with only 120 fish in 100 acres and not knowing the lake either as well, you know, that would have been really good. He's caught 2 in the first couple of hours. So I'm going to hand you over to Mr. Peck now. He's going to show you what he's caught, and after we put them back, he's going to show you the rig he caught them on.
Right, here he is, my first ever Belgian carp, an absolute beauty, just over 25 pounds. Come just after moving on to some showing fish, flicking them out, and hadn't been in the water an hour, and we're into this beauty. Absolutely over the moon, but we're going to get him back because I've got an even bigger one to show you soon. Well, here it is, my second ever Belgian carp, and a personal best to boot, 51 pound common. I'm absolutely over the moon. It just goes to show you, find the fish, get on them, simple rigs, and you can catch beauties like this. I'm buzzing. Gonna get him back and try and catch a few more. Right, starting with the hook bait here, you'll notice it's bright pink. Originally that was a 10mm milky toffee, and what I'd done to that is added a little bit of squid flavour, a little bit of plum flavour and a tiny bit of sweetener. And once those baits are drawn on those additives and they'd gone dry, I added the old squid goo, the supreme version. It's really thin and that cuts deep inside the bait. Now, the reason I use pink is I've had great success on that in the recent seasons. In my opinion, it's the new white, the new yellow. It's a great colour, and whenever I've used it, I've had great success. Moving down from that, you'll notice that the first part of the hair as such of the rig is peeled, and it's the only part of the rig which is peeled, and that just allows the bait to have a little bit of natural movement and allows the hook to do what it needs to do, catch into the fish's lip. Talking about that in particular, you'll notice between the split shot and the eye of the hook, I've got roughly 1 inch of coating remaining, and that is shaped just using my finger, and that helps for the turning process. You know, when I'm using that choddy hook in combination with that back turned eye with the curved section, that helps for the aggressive turning. When that hook link is tensioned as the fish moves up for the bait and tightens the hook link, that hook will roll over into the fish's lip. Now, don't be paranoid about the fact that I'm using a size 8 hook. Think that that's a very small hook for big fish. Let me tell you now, I've caught a lot of good fish on this. Moving down the rig, got a split shot, you know, nothing less complicated than that. You know, you could use putty, but I find split shot doesn't move, to nip it on there, and that Dyneema core that's inside the braid is as tough as old boots. You ain't going to damage that. Moving down the boom section, probably 6 inches long, and I believe that when you're using a boom of roughly 6 inches long and using a critically balanced pop-up, once that's fully extended, so it's not far from the lead, but the fish, once that sucks that in, it's only going to have to move 1 or 2 inches. That's going to tension the hook link to the lead, and it's going to result in a hooked fish. Moving down, you notice I've not got a quick link. I'm straight onto the ring swivel of a hybrid lead clip. I use these 9 out of 10 times in all of my fishing because I just think they suit what I do, you know. Very safe, very easy and very neat, you know, a very good piece of equipment. I've got a little 2-ounce bomb, perfect for here. We're moving on to showing fish. I'm pinging out there, feeling down into deep water. There's not a lot of weed about. I get a nice drop and I'm confident that on a lake like this, that I'm guessing is probably a sandy sort of bottom, this will be presented 99 times out of 100 and fishing well. You'll see that I've got dark matter tubing. I use this again 9 out of 10 times of all my fishing. It's very heavy, very supple, very easy to thread and very user friendly. So there you have it, that's the rig I'm using here. Go on. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Welcome to Belgium.
Well, check that out, 33.5 pounds of Belgium gold. Absolutely over the moon after an epic battle. In the net he went, and I could not be more happy. To get a bite within the first 24 hours on a new lake that's this size with this many fish in it is just an absolute result. They've been showing out there this morning, they drifted closer in and bang, it was away. And just like Darryl, I'm using pop-ups, but my rig is different, so we're going to slip him back and show you what I'm using. This is my rig for casting at showing fish and getting out there as quickly and as quietly as possible. It's a pop-up rig and it's the classic hinge stiff rig. So I've got a size 8 choddy hook there. This one is a squid infused sort of darker pop-up. This started off as a cell pop-up and it's not quite so bright as the ones that Darryl's catching on, but don't ignore putting it onto dark ones as well. And the squid is an absolute winner. It's the supreme, the thin one, and that eats in. Over a few months it'll eat all the way to the middle of the bait. It doesn't really affect the buoyancy and it's just flooding out the whole time it's in the water. And then moving down, you've got a nice curve in that. So that's 20-pound mouth trap. Then the boom section, that's made out of hybrid. That's the really stiff material, coated material, and that's crimped at either end, just using the crimping tool. And basically over the crimp closest to the ring swivel, I've put a little bit of dark matter putty, and that sinks it reasonably quickly. Doesn't go down really slow, because I think if it goes down too slow and hits a bit of weed halfway down, it can stay there. So if it sinks pretty quickly, hopefully it will find its way, if there is any weed, to the bottom of the weed and look more like a free offering. The boom itself is probably about 5 inches long, something like that. I reckon that's good for out there. Most of it's pretty clear. I'm not casting it into heavy weed. I do use it a little bit longer, perhaps, you know, if I wanted to push it away from the lead a little bit more. And I've caught on really short booms as well, only a couple of inches. And that could be really good if the chod rig's been used a lot. You can just put a boom on of a couple of inches and that starts snaring them when the chod rig gets you funny bites and you start dropping fish. And then the lead system, it's a helicopter rig. That's just tied by myself with the cable lead core, only probably about 2 feet long. The rule on here is it can't be more than a metre. I think that's a really good rule. 12 foot, like 4 metres of lead core, serves no purpose at all, and it can get caught up in weed and snags much easier and leave the fish tethered to them. So the shorter you make it, the safer it is, and it can be made safer still with one of these no trace beads. So you've got a little tapered sleeve in the kit, and then that hard bead, that slides over it and it will pop off if the fish is dragging it around any distance. The hook link then slides off the end of the lead core and is away from the lead, and that's the most important thing. Personally, I think this sort of system should be compulsory everywhere now because it's so safe. With that hard bead just popping off, there's nothing to stop the hook link getting off the end of the lead core. It's a couple of inches, maybe 3 inches up from the lead, because the lead's not plummeting into the bottom. If it was very weedy or very silty, then I'd move that up a little bit. So that's my rig for casting towards showing fish and not really knowing what it's landing on. It's presented pretty much everywhere and it is absolutely nailing them.
Right, yesterday, absolutely loads of fish here. Got them out, caught a couple, but now it's gone really, really quiet. I've seen a few down the other end. I'm gonna have a quick move and try and get on them. You know, the guys we spoke to yesterday, they had a fridge with him. You know, what's the chance of a guy with a fridge moving swim? Very unlikely. So hopefully these little quick moves onto showing fish, into little cubby holes, should pay good, and I should get a couple more.
Well, completely out of the blue, it has roared off, middle of the day. They say daytime bites on here. I was thinking about winding in, putting a bit of bait in and resting the swim, and going down to see Pecky. It probably doesn't come across in his commentary to you, but his tenacity and his energy and his fishing is just incredible. If he'd had bites at the other end, then I would have moved down there as well. But it's pointless two people moving on the fish, putting 6 rods out. I see a fish show out in front of this swim, not over this rod, over one of the others, but so I didn't bait up, I didn't wind in. Middle of the day, I'm guessing it's best part of 30 foot deep. It's roared off. with a very powerful fish. I'm going to have to move down to the water's edge now. This one is on a garlic goo infused mainline pop-up. I've had them soaking in it for, well, almost months now. I've done really well on it in the UK, and it's working over here. It's getting closer to being ready now. Come on, fella. In the net you come. In the net you come. Come on. Get in that net. Yes, come on. Ah, that is wicked. And how about that for an absolute wood carving of a carp, just over the magical 30-pound barrier, and absolutely nailed on that hinge stiff rig and a size 8 choddy. We're employing very simple tactics, just using the throwing stick, 15mm banoffee boilies over the top, and it's working an absolute treat.
Right, there you go, the quick moves paid off. Look at this cracking 43.4 Belgian mirror. I'm over the moon with it. Look at the colours on him, it's absolutely insane. Loving it. Right, we were just photoing that lovely 43-pounder, and we're doing some water shots, and this rod is absolutely tore off. It feels like a decent one, so I'm going to concentrate on getting him in. Excellent, absolutely over the moon. Right, have a look at him, 28-12. He's the one that ripped off when I was photoing the 43, so I nearly had a brace. Absolutely cracking fish. These Belgian fish are absolutely amazing. I'm going to get him back because I've only got one rod in the water and I want to catch some more beauties like this. Well, here he is, Belgian carp number 5, 29 pounds, taken on my simple little pop-up rig with a little scattering of those banoffee 15mm. Very good tactic when you've got fish showing, 2-ounce bombs plopped out, 30 or 40, maybe 50 yards, and then over the top with the 15mm, 4 or 5 in the throwing stick, and it's a pretty inconspicuous method when fishing in that depth of water.
We are now 48 hours into our session. Obviously Darryl Peck is absolutely on fire. I opted to stay in the original swim last night, and I did what most people would probably do at the start of a session, put the 3 rods out at the same sort of distance, put bait out over the top of them. What I did is I cast the Sky Winder out with a few boilies in it. That was clipped up about a rod length short, so I was 19 rod lengths with the rods, 18 with the spod rod, and then when that's hit the surface I pick up the throwing stick and I'm throwing sticking boilies, and I'm using that spod as a marker, so I haven't got a marker float in the swim, it's sitting on the surface and I'm using it to put the boilies out to. But the added advantage is the seagulls don't like the braid on the surface and they won't dive as much when the braid's out there, so I'm casting it out, putting as many out as I can before it drifts off, winding it in and repeating. Now the morning before, the fish had started out in the middle of the lake and had drifted in, and I'd got a bite at sort of 7 o'clock in the morning and another one about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This morning that didn't happen. Nothing showed out there. Got up really early again, didn't see any fish at all, saw a little bit of slicking, and then the icing on the cake, the thing that really told me I need to move was the fact I caught a bream this morning on one of the rods. So the slicks that were coming up as the fish were eating that bait, it was obviously bream, not carp. Hadn't seen any carp at all, and more importantly I got the nod from Darryl Peck, get round here because there's fish showing round here, and you probably can't see it from the film but he is so on it. That's what catches him the fish. A guy came round yesterday and said, you have caught a lot of fish, I am not catching anything, I am using bottom baits, you are using pop-ups. That is not the reason Darryl is catching. Darryl is catching because he's Darryl. I don't know anyone that looks as much, that moves as much, that puts as much energy into his fishing, and if Darryl says move round here, I'm going to move around here. So I've cut all my gear down, taken stuff back to the van that I don't need, and I've crept round here and the fish are here. I've just flicked out 3 light leads out into the area. I'm putting the boilies out with a throwing stick, a couple of boilies at a time. If the seagulls turn up, I'm just stopping, waiting for them to go and then putting more out. And it looks really good for a bite. Daryl's on them, he's just round the corner. He's got 3 rods spaced out and I'm sort of probably 150 yards away. We're either side of a pack of fish. So hopefully today one of us is going to get a bite.
Right, have a look at that. 42.5 pounds of Belgian common carp. A take completely out of the blue. Wasn't sure if the fish was still in the area. They'd been there this morning, but nothing happened at the bite time that we've been getting them at. We wound in, had a little walk about, came back to the swim, nothing better going on. Plopped them out just a little bit further, put a few more of those banoffee baits out there, and would you believe it, this one's picked it up. 42.5 pounds, lovely.
The hardware that Daryl and I are using for this opportunist style fishing is almost identical, and that's no coincidence. We're both on 12-foot 3 3/4 Bezier rods, and that might sound pokey for fishing close in, but it means we can do everything from a rod length to 120 yards with ease. And we've got the big guns in the car, so we've got some stepped up infinities, 13-foot infinities, a new rod. And if we had to fish out at extreme range, that's what we'd be using. But for this sort of just dinking it out, sort of 40, 50 yards, this kit is perfect. We're both using Bezier reels as well because they cast so well and they've got the quick drag on them. Mine is loaded with 20-pound touchdown, so 0.43 diameter. So you've got amazing abrasion resistance, and because there's less stretch in the touchdown, you can feel the lead down really easily, and that plays such a massive part in mine and Daryl's fishing. You know, we must know what we're fishing on. There's no guesswork. You know, you want to know if you're in weed or you're in silt or you're on a nice hard spot, and having that extra diameter when you're playing big fish like this just makes you feel that little bit more secure. With these stiff rods, you'll notice both of us when we play our fish, we keep the rod very high. The rod's not bending that much. We're not pulling the head off the fish. The nice thing with a stiffer set of rods, one, you can cast further out if you need to, but also there's always something left to in the rod. So if you've got to pull harder, if you're snag fishing or something, the rod isn't bent double already. And when they're just twisting and turning in the edge like this, you can ease off a bit and just play them nice and carefully. It's much better to be the master of a stiff set of rods than stick on a light set and find there's certain times you can't cast to the fish, or the fish just do you in a snag or in the weed because you can't pull hard enough. This one again is on the squid goo hook bait. So you've got the great attraction of the cell, the squid as well, and you've got that superb buoyancy which is so important with pop-up rigs, and all the mainline pop-ups now are really, really buoyant, which just makes the rig sit that much better. It's not giving up easy, this one. For netting, just keep the rod nice and high. In you come. In that net. Yes, get in! Wicked, well chuffed. How about that for an absolutely classic common carp? 30 pounds, 8 ounces, a Belgian bar of gold. Absolutely over the moon, and nailed again, absolutely nailed on that hinge stiff rig. This time a size 8 crank choddy, one of Tom Dove's brainchilds, and once they go in, they properly stay in. Well, it's the hottest part of the day, and again, completely against the rule book, we are into what feels like a very powerful carp. It's just taken about 50 yards of line on its first run. That's right out there now. This is why we go carp fishing right this moment now. Just praying that you win. It's by no means over. Come on, be good to me. Be good to me. The most epic battle so far. Another beautiful Belgian bar of gold. It's in the net. Come on. It's in the net. Yes! Got him! Come on! That is wicked. What a way to end our first session on the low stock big pit. 10 bites, 10 fish in the net for the two of us. And this gorgeous thing went 32 pounds. And what a battle it was. And I think the difference between success and failure on here for this session has been moving around a lot. We've stayed really mobile. I've followed Daryl's lead. When the fish have moved, we've moved with them. And I think that, coupled with the small hook baits, covered in the squid goo, and the banoffee bottom baits, has been the difference. And can't wait to get back. We're going to have a regroup, rethink about it, and get back later on in the summer. Every time you get a ripper on a big lake like this with not many fish in it, your heart is in your mouth.
Every bite is electric, you know, because the possibilities that it could be a fish that you'll cherish forever is just there.
And when you're playing one, you're just thinking, don't come off, don't come off, don't come off. That moment when it goes in the net, it is so sweet. Like anything in your fishing, if you've worked hard to achieve it, it feels all the better. We are back for our second session on this low stock big pit, and we found them already. And if you don't get anything else from this section of the masterclass, get location from this one. We got here late last night, arrived in the dark, just bivvied up, no rods out the van or anything at all. Once it got light this morning, Daryl and I were keeping an eye on the area that we bivvied up in, scanning the water, didn't really see anything worth fishing for, so we went our separate ways. We've got walkie-talkies as well. He's gone one way round the 100 acres, I've gone the other way round it, and I've found fish in this corner. And it was blatantly obvious, there was loads of bubbles out there. And if you stay there long enough, if the carp's feeding, you'll see one show. And sure enough, one showed right over the top of the bubbles, then another one shown, then another one shown. So I've legged it back, packed my bivvy away, gone and got the rods from the car, wheeled it all the way round here. We are as far away from the car park as you can possibly get. There's only 2 or 3 other anglers fishing. It's now sort of early August. We expected it to be busier than it was, but it seems to be exactly the same as the last time we come. They're showing in close. I've got 2 rods out there already, little tiny pop-ups on every rod, no baits going in the swim at all. I'm going to get this 3rd one out there, just cast down the margin, sit back and see if we can get a quick bite. Just looking around the lake a little bit because it didn't look good over there, and there was a load of fish in this bay here, loads and loads of them. I've managed to sneak a couple of rods just out there. There's a lot of Canadian pondweed in the edge, so I've fished a hinge stiff rig on a helicopter rig. I've squeezed a bit of foam around the hook so that it all stands upright off the bottom, and then when that foam melts it sinks down in amongst the fronds of weed, and I've just thrown a little sprinkling of sort of 1/4 and half baits out there just to get the fish hopefully to come in and have a feed. They're right on top of me, so it's very touch and go here whether or not we're going to get a bite. It might just spook them a little bit further out. This is basically the difference between how most people fish on this kind of water and how me and Darryl are fishing. They'd be in the normal swims, they'd be plotted up, there'd be a fridge in the bivvy, there'd be loads of marker float and all that going on. We're just flopping really light leads in amongst the fish, a little tiny sprinkling of bait, and hopefully that'll buy us a bite when the rest of the lake's not doing anything. So I'm going to sit back for a few hours, see if anything occurs. If it doesn't, I'll assess the situation then. Well, that's coming up lovely and clean. It's been a very exhilarating but frustrating couple of hours here. The fish have continued to show sort of just beyond where I'm fishing, the other side of a snag tree from where I'm fishing. I saw the massive koi, there's a 50-pound koi in here, and I saw that come through and it was drifting around out on the surface. So they're all over us here, but it appears that they've moved more into the corner and they're also showing out down the bottom bank now. So I'm going to repo round to the swim round there. If I get round there, I can get everything sorted for the night, get the 3 rods out, and then I'm done. If they're not here in the morning and they start showing on the bait I've put in the other swim, I can move around there as well. But it's absolutely mad. There's so many big fish out there. I can't wait to get the rods back out. Good morning. A pretty uneventful first night on our second session. 3 o'clock this morning I had a bream on the left hand rod which is cast right down into the corner there where the bulk of the fish were yesterday afternoon, and I heard fish showing out there in the dark during the night but no other takes came. But this morning the fish are up off the tip of the reeds. They're just round the corner from a point, so one's just shown there now. They're just gradually creeping down that margin, and I'm sure because it's going to be hot again today they're going to end up in this corner, so I'm definitely staying put. Right hand rod straight in front of me has had fish showing near it. The middle rod is cast over to that margin and I've had fish showing over that as well. It looks really good for this corner again basically, but this is the sort of fishing that I love to do. You know, it's not easy fishing. We're fishing very mobile. Me and Darryl on the walkie-talkie the whole time. He's not seen enough in his swim, so he's going round to fish the other side of that point. You know, it's big fish fishing. It requires a lot of effort, and if you get it right, it just feels so sweet. Right guys, as you can see, I've had a little move. Ran in that swim yesterday, didn't see anything else. Cast out for the evening. I did see 2 this morning, sort of just after first light, but I was on the walkie-talkie to Dan and he'd said he'd seen loads. Left the cameraman with the bivvy, took the mountain bike round, come and had a quick look, I walked into this swim. And if you can see that brick just down there in the edge, I'm not joking, I've been here 30 seconds to a minute and a common upper 30, maybe a 40 pounder just come right out the water. Went back in, I could see it scales as it swam off. I've got 2 rods around the corner, sort of on the shelf. I think the reason we haven't caught this time is the fish, they're higher in the water, so even when they're showing further out, they're not like running the ground, you know, they're not hitting the bottom. So I think even if they do show further out, it's better to stay close, hoping that when they do come in, the depth of water is less, you know, so I've got more chance of encountering the hook bait. Talking of my rigs and stuff, I'm using the same Milky Toffee pop-ups with the Squid Supreme goo, and they're really bright. Rig-wise, I'm just using little hinged semi-stiff end trap, size 8 jolly hooks, really nice, dainty setup, probably a lot smaller than what the European anglers would use, but it's fairly open water here. I don't need to fish like massive hooks. You know, I've caught big fish in England like nearly to the same size as the ones in here. All being well, I generally land what I hook. So that's up to speed now. I'm going to keep the noise down and hopefully we might see some action.
Right, the little move has just paid off. Right hand rod pretty close in on the margin shelf where they've been showing. Absolutely ripped off, and feels like a decent fish. Sometimes, you know, after all the hard work that we've done, it's all the more satisfying when you actually finally get into one. And although this session we've had to work a bit harder, I think there's a chance we're going to get amongst them now. There's just chugging left. Mate, this is fighting like an absolute enormodon. Right, I think I might wade down to the next peg, say pulling it back up past these snags on the left. Yeah, I think that's going to be the call. I've got a net in the other swim. Yeah, let's go, let's go. Oh my good mother God. Come on, come left. Right, this went on a mega run, you know, I just saw it in close. I know for a fact it's bigger than any common I've ever caught in my life. I'm desperate to get this in. These fish in this lake are really special, special as they are to me at home. And I'll do anything to get this in. Every time we see him, he just shoots back out into the lake. And just see that little pink pop up hanging out his mouth, and off he shoots. Here he comes again, close to these snags. Try and steer him away. Try and steer him away, let's see. No, do not go round there. Right, here we go. Death circles. Oh my God, look at that. That is ridiculous. Get in there. Yes, yes. Absolutely yes. Yes. Oh my God. You want to see the size of this? It's absolutely unbelievable. Fish of my dreams, without doubt. Incredible. Right guys, commons in the sling. It's all zeroed up. My personal best came from here on the last visit. It was 51.5, I believe, or 51.4. I'm hoping this is going to slightly do it. I'm absolutely buzzing to see what it goes. So let's have a little looky. Oh my God. It's not. It's just under 46. Just under 46. Can't be grumbling at that though, you know, absolutely over the moon. He's not quite as big as I thought he was, not a personal best, but who cares when they look like this, you know? Incredible battle, he looked huge in the clear water. The little move, first of all into the point, and then moving round again where the little bit of showing had been going on, has paid off handsomely. It's gone to show that our tactics are working. The rigs, the baits, and just the moving around, you know, the location being the key. Absolutely classic carp, you know, you couldn't catch better than this anywhere in the world. Right, let's have one last little look at her before we slip her back. Absolutely buzzing.
Well, no sooner has the Peckinator bagged one, and I'm in on the left-hand rod. 10.5 rod lengths down into the corner, and I think the pivotal thing was I sprayed a load of bait down there earlier on. This is on like a match the hatch hook bait. It's a cell pop-up that I've made myself with cork dust, and it's exactly the same colour as these banoffees that I'm feeding, and it's worked. I knew the fish would come back down into this corner today. I didn't expect to run now, but it's so nice when you have a plan and it works out. So whether he goes in the net or not, we're getting to grips with the place. Get in that net. Get in that net. Come on. Yes! Get in! Ah, that is wicked, man, wicked. How about that for an absolutely perfect common carp to open my account on this session. £32 on the button, and it is so sweet when you try really hard and then you get your just rewards. Absolutely wicked. Good fish. Another one on the left hand rod. It's a fat one. Come on, get in the net, get in the net. Yes, got him, come on. Check that out. What an awesome carp from an awesome lake. £40, 4 ounces. My first 40 from here for 18 years. And it feels very sweet indeed, I can tell you. And the difference between today, basically I'm putting loads of bait in. I'm chopping them in half, using the banoffees, putting them out with the catapult. They make hardly any splash. And I've put a load of bait out there now because they were shown in front of Daryl. They weren't in this corner, so I thought, right, I'll bait up, get it in there quick and get a rod over the top of it. And that's what's going. And yesterday I was probably going too softly, putting little bits of crumb in, not much bait at all. And it wasn't provoking a feeding response, but today they are bang on this bait. Literally I ain't even put the bobbin on the left hand rod, and this is a big fish. Come on, fella. Oh, round in circles, in the net. Get in, you monstrous carp, come on! Ah, yes, get in! How about that for a Belgian super beast? £47, 12 ounces, probably a 50 pounder at the right time of year, but who cares when they look like this? And it just shows if you put the right bait on the right rig in the right spot, you can make a notoriously difficult water look pretty easy. We've come to the end of our second session on this big pit and we have learned absolutely loads. After those successes at the start, the fish just sort of ebbed away from that area, and I didn't fish on the second night. I baited up both areas where I'd seen fish that morning, opted not to fish, got up really early, looked for fish, didn't see anything, and just didn't even cast out down there. There was no point. Went down to see Daryl. In true Daryl style, we'd already moved. The fish had moved a couple of 100 yards along the bank, so he'd flicked 3 rods out. It took him a few casts to do it. And we've noticed on this session that the fish are more spooky than they were last time. I think last time they'd only spawned a few weeks previous. They were obviously hungry. They'd accept the casting a little bit more. And although it's produced one beautiful common for Daryl, he's moved and moved again onto showing fish, and it hasn't produced any more. So we're going to have a rethink there. I moved down here yesterday because I saw a load of fish over off that beach area. You can't fish there. It's a dog walking zone for the sort of last 100 yards, unfortunately. And this is as close as I could get to them. I didn't see any fish in this area. One was spotted here during the day when I wasn't in the swim, but I thought it looked a lot better here than it did up the other end. I put 3 rods out. This morning I got woken up by a bream on the left hand rod, then a bream on the middle rod very soon after. Nothing happened on the right hand rod, and I saw a fish show over the top of it, and I really felt I was going to get one. And then the sort of time for a bite sort of ebbed away. I ended up winding that rod in, and I think I'd cast it slightly too close to the bottom of the shelf, and it was in a little bit of weed. Put it back out again and caught a bream on it almost instantly, which to me confirmed that the rig wasn't fishing when the carp showed over the top of it. But most importantly, a very, very good Belgian angler fished the next swim up to me and had a bite in the night, a lovely mirror, about thought was 35 pound, and he had a small common just after first light. He got it right, me and Daryl got it wrong. Daryl moved down here because he'd seen fish showing first thing this morning, flicked out his light leads again, and it just didn't work. You know, put a load of effort into it, really careful to get out, and it didn't produce a bite. Yet the guy in between us caught two. So he's definitely doing something that we are not. So all it's done for both of us is just fired us up to get back here and try and work it out. Big pits are just so interesting because they're different every time you come. The fish's habits have definitely changed in the last month. They're probably going to change in the next month, but personally, I cannot wait to get back and get at them again.
I always tell myself there's 4 things that I need to align in my fishing, and that is locate the fish and the spot where they want to feed, use a bait that they want to eat, fish a rig that you're confident in that doesn't tangle, strong enough to land the fish, and a sharp hook. You know, the camouflaging bits that you see these days are important, you know, but they are secondary important, you know. If you take out one of the top 4, you cannot catch a fish. So I concern myself with the top 4 first, and then I worry about whether I can fish slack lines, tight lines, back leads. I worry about all that secondly, you know. It's getting the real raw key fact right and keeping them aligned as much as you can.
Well, it's my first night back for over a month and a bite straight away. Well chuffed with this boilie muncher. 44 pounds 4 ounces and my first mirror carp out of here for a lot of years. Well pleased with this one. And in our absence, the fish's behaviour have changed and so have the tactics. We're fishing further out, we're putting a load of bait out, boilies and tigers, and we could see this one's been in the sling about an hour and there were tigers in there, so he's definitely been eating them as well. But it was a peaches and cream hook bait on an IQD rig that did the business. God, it's proper heavy. Gonna do a few stills and get him back.
Right, you join me back in Belgium. I've actually been here 8 nights on my own before Danny arrived. I enjoyed the first trip so much, I thought I'd come here and do my own personal fishing, and I've actually got 2 weeks left. Things have changed a lot down here. The locals have all turned up again. The lake was very quiet before, but they've all come because the weights are up, and the normal sort of etiquette here is a lot of swim rotation. You know, the anglers are getting into the good swims, letting a guy go in for the weekend and then taking that back over. This has meant that moving around all of the time when I'm on fish has led to certain swims being taken again and not being able to get back into them. I did manage to catch one on the 3rd night. I'd reeled in because there was no fish showing in my swim, had a trot round on the mountain bike, found a few fish, got on them, and was probably out for 5 AM, 30 yards out, a few boilies flicked round, and I had a take by 6, which turned out to be a lovely 35 common. Because so many of the good swims are getting occupied, I've had to go into sort of a more of a camping mode, and Danny's doing the same, I think. I've come into this swim because it's sandwiched between 2 of the absolute flyers. I've got a beach swim to my left and the big tree to my right, and those 2 pegs have been doing consistent action. So I've come in here, been told it's not such a good peg, but I've seen fish out here each morning, and it took 2 days to sort of work out what I was doing. I went a little bit further and found a nice hard spot sort of where it starts to shallow up, and I managed to catch a 42-pound common the first night that I did that, and on the last night I managed a 38 common. So I'm really pleased about that. The only downside so far about this swim is that the fish might have moved off. You know, they've been here since I was in here, and I only capitalised for the last 2 days. But fortunately, Danny is right on them. So all being well, hopefully we'll get a few to show you.
This is the rig I caught the fish on, and it's my #1 rig for fishing on a hard bottom with boilies. It's very aggressive, much more aggressive than most people's rigs, and there's a number of reasons for that. First of all, the hook and the hook bait. It's a size 2 curve shank. Totally different from what we were doing pop-ups earlier on in the year. There we wanted a little tiny hook because it's standing up off the bottom, you're casting it showing fish, there's no snags or anything around, and we were using small hook baits. Now I'm using a 20mm slow sinker. This is a peaches and cream, straight out the packet. So a bigger hook is employed because the hook is lying on the bottom. It's not popped up at all, it's not sitting on its point, it's lying flat, and the bait is just sort of hovering just above it, so it obscures the sight and the size of the hook. And the fish don't know it's a big hook until it's in their mouth, and I think big hooks in this situation grab hold better than small ones. Now this hook is very aggressive at turning because I'm coupling it with 20-pound IQ2, so it's a stiff hook link, it's coming out the eye, the point side of the hook, and that turns it over and it makes it catch hold really, really quickly. I think it's quicker than most other rigs with a braided section or anything that's a little bit softer. And if you think when the fish suck the bait in, we've seen it on the underwater, it's in and out of their mouth in a split second. You want it to go in and it's caught them straight away. And that's what this does. Got a big D on the end there. That's not for anti-ejection, it's just to allow the bait and the hook to separate as the hook turns and catches hold. So they go in the mouth, they're very close together, so the point's got to catch hold. As it starts to do that, the bait can get out of the way and let it penetrate properly. I've got a hook link of about 6 inches because I'm fishing on a hard bottom. I've got a sinker in the middle of it just to help everything sit down flat. I don't put it near the hook anymore because it makes the hook sink too quickly. And then down to the lead system, my favourite cog that I've been using for years and years now, I've been testing this for absolutely ages. It is now commercially available. This is the 4-ounce distance version. It's flat on purpose so it doesn't roll over and make the rig sit funny. So it's going to come down onto the bottom like that because of the resistance of the hook link and sit flat every single time. That's straight onto a lead clip and then down onto some dark matter tubing, and it's really important that you use tubing with this. This rig is more prone to tangling than a standard rig, than a standard lead clip. So by using a stiff hook link and a thick bit of tubing, you reduce the risk of that. And I always watch it in the air. You can put a little bit of foam on which will help the sight of the bait as you're casting it out, and just make sure the two are separated. And what I tend to do is feather it just before it hits the clip. That pushes the hook link away from the tube and you can see it all outstretched and you know it's fishing. If it looks like it's wrapped up around the tubing, wind it in and do it again. But if you set it up like that over a bed of boilies, you will be getting loads of bites.
Right, so here's my rig for this session. I've got a peaches and cream wafter on there, and that's tied knotless knot to a size 6 wide gape. Great hook to land ratio on this rig, and the key points, the dark matter braid which I've got here is knotless knotted 12 times down the shank. That allows the hair to exit exactly level with the point, and I find that when I use it in this way, I lose very few fish. The rig itself is probably about 8 inches long and tied directly to a hybrid lead clip. Tail rubber onto the back of that, and again the dark matter tubing, very supple, very heavy, and helps to keep the immediate area around the hook bait pinned to the bottom. The lead itself here is a distance lead, and I've been using 2s, 3s and 4s. You know, when I've been casting to showing fish, 2s have been more than ample, and when I've been trying to get a special drop, you know, the 3s, and then 4 ounces when I'm really trying to bang it out there. Don't be confused about how simple this is and think that I need to be using something that's more sort of technically advanced. This rig has caught for me wherever I've been, whether it be Coninbrook, Yateley, St Ives, hasn't really mattered, you know. It might be simple, it might look basic, but trust me, it works everywhere I go. Right, check out this crazy little koi common. Over the moon with him, had a tough couple of days, but it was taken on the little wafter hook bait, the size 6 wide gape, and the dark matter braid. Lovely. Had a little bit of a plum round further down the bank a few days ago, found a spot with a leading rod and baited it, and I actually ended up moving it because the fish had been showing more straight in front. And last night in the dark, they started showing out there, and I rewrapped the rod, whacked out to the same tree on the horizon, and this was my result. Perfect. But sometimes fishing doesn't always go to plan. You know, you arrive on a big difficult lake and you know it's hard, you don't see them showing, and you have to go through the grind. You don't go home, you don't give up, because at any moment things can change. You know, one sighting can lead you to 20 captures. It really can, you know, it can be that crucial.
If you turn up and just chuck it anywhere, it will seem like a very big lake. If you find the fish, it will seem like a much, much smaller lake. And the more you fish big waters, the smaller they become.
You know, actually the downtime for me, you know, when it's not right, it just makes me try harder. When I've caught a fish, you know, and I think I'm going to catch another one in front of me, I can have a lie down in the bed chair. You know, I'm actually quite chilled at that point. You know, it doesn't become like hard work. You know, the hard part is getting yourself in that position. You know, when it's not happening, you just have to try harder.
It's not for everybody, it's not for the faint-hearted, and I think some people do make the mistake of going on these sort of places too early in their fishing career. They're out of their depth, they're not catching anything, they don't know why, and that's only for a lack of experience. It's not necessarily to do with their skills or anything else. It's something to be worked up to.
Well, as you can see, guys, by the attire that I'm wearing, it's far later into the year. We're in October, it's much cooler, and I'm here on my 4th session. But before we go into that, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what happened after the cameras left at the end of September. I was staying on, I was doing a 3-week session, and I think I had about a week to go when the cameras left. I moved straight from the car park swim into the beach, and I had a really good result. You know, I came here hoping for one of the real big ones, and I did manage to catch a fish called the lemon fish. It was a 56-pound mirror, and I was over the moon with that. But the next day after that, I decided to have a little bit of a move. Went back down into the car park and made a bad decision, but moved again and got into a swim called the Cabin. And it wasn't really on, but as the session sort of progressed, 24 hours in, the fish moved in, and I was fortunate enough to catch one of the real jewels from the lake. They call it the red one. We'd call it a big koi, but it's an absolutely incredible fish. Bright orange, black scales, and 55 pounds, you know, it's a really, really nice one. And another highlight of that session, the following day, I caught a really rare one from the lake, a fish called the pearl, which was 56 pounds. So all in all, I'd done really well in that back week and sort of turned the session round. I'd learned quite a lot from it, you know. The original tactics of moving on to showing fish had worked really well initially, but it was very apparent towards the end of the session that with all the anglers coming for long sessions, that if I wanted to fish like that, I would often be stranded in swims without fish. So for this 4th session, I had a totally different plan up my sleeve. Well, after those 3 weeks, there was a couple of swims that I had in my mind. You know, I'd been here a long time and I'd spent a lot of dawns watching, and there was definitely a concentration of fish around the central area of the lake. The one problem with that is everybody here are session anglers, so I knew I was going to have to be a bit like a cuckoo, and even for the start of this session I knew I wasn't going to be able to get where I really wanted. So again, I was here for 3 weeks, and for the first 4 or 5 nights I couldn't get where I wanted, and the swim that I really fancied was a central one with a westerly off the back. That swim had done a lot of fish in the weeks running up to when I've been away, and the problem was it was due to be taken indefinitely. And one morning it was pouring with rain, and I was sat in quite a good swim that I would have stayed for the duration, but I was only 1 night into it, and I woke up at dawn and I couldn't see a bivvy in the swim, and it was raining, and I didn't have time to think. I literally just packed the bivvy down, left my bed chair and all my tackle out in the rain, wound the rods in, come round here on the mountain bike with a bivvy under my arm like an absolute nutcase, and set it up right round here. And once I was in, I knew from that moment forward I probably wouldn't be moving. The plan was, having seen fish at real long range in the middle of the lake, and most of the usual anglers fishing at around 80 to 100 metres, I knew that I can fish further than that and comfortably, and I was hoping that with a lot of bait and a lot of time in an area where the fish get regularly, that I would be able to generate some sort of hit. It started off slow, as you can imagine. The first day I probably spent 3 or 4 hours plumbing at extreme range, and I found it all to be a much of a muchness, a lot of it, you know, very silty. I did find one particular hard spot at extreme range, but it was so far out that I knew I wouldn't be able to fish it effectively all of the time, you know, it would be weather dependent. But I settled on a mark at a comfortable range for me, which is well in excess of 120 metres, and it was just soft. It was fairly soft, fairly smooth, but not as thick and gloopy as a lot of the other surrounding areas. The first day I went in with 20 spoms of bait. you're looking at about 2 kilo there. I didn't get anything. It was getting late, so I didn't really have time to fill it in, but I really went for it in the end. I put 45 out the next day, and the following morning I caught my first fish. So I was off the mark, 35 pounder in the bag. Another 45 bombs went out there, and I lost one that night. But because I'd had 2 bites, 2 single bites over that amount of bait, I decided to drop it down a bit. I thought, I've had a lot of bait out there, I've established a patch. They've probably been past it and seen it, so I dropped it to 30. And the 4th night in the swim, I had 4 takes. I had a 51 common, a 49 common, and 2 smaller ones, like upper 20s, maybe getting on for 30 pounds. And on the 5th night, it really came together, and I caught an absolute monster. You know, I wanted to catch a fish close to my PB in England, and I managed that. I caught a fish called Jimmy's fish, and it was 65 pounds. So not over the magical 30 kilo in this country, but more than big enough for me. And I backed that up with another 49 pounder. So all in all, it's gone really well. I've got quite a bit of time left in this swim, and things are looking up. The fish at times are definitely moving away from me and coming onto me, but you never know. You know, it could still happen. I could end up with the same amount of fish again, but I don't want to count my chickens yet. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to take you through the technical gear that I'm using to fish at that range. Right guys, I want to talk to you about the hardware that I'm using, and I've got a prototype rod here. It's a 13-foot Infinity, and Danny's got a version as well. His ones are really stiff and mine have got a fast action, but they are primarily for long range fishing, and we're testing them, and further down the line, maybe in a year's time when we're completely happy, these may be available in the market for you guys to buy. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it. It hasn't got a test curve. It's 3 to 5 ounce casting weight, and it's got new rings on it, completely different to what you've seen on the current models in the range. They're called minima guides. They've got really thin ceramic, and what that does, it makes the tip section really light and helps you to generate great tip speed. I'm going to move down to the reel. The reel is a Bezier. I use it for all my fishing. Excellent long range reel. I love the clutch on it. It's really light. I puck a bit of kit. Now let's talk about the line. You know, when you're long range fishing, the line is one of the key things. It's all good having a stiff rod that's got great action, it's all good having a big pit reel, but you've got to have a thin diameter line, and that is the key to long range fishing. But if you're fishing at long range with thin line without a leader, you're going to crack off sometimes, and again, we don't want to be doing that. And on waters like this, where you're not allowed shock leaders, because of the knot. And this product gets you around that problem. You know, we've got tapered subline on. It's the 0.33 subline, and it's got a 0.50 leader. The leader is 50 foot long, and there is one on either end. So should you snap up, you can reverse it. But one of the top tips that I want to give you for using this product is to cut the leader down. Like I say, it's 50 feet long. I cut it in half. I take off 24 foot, but anywhere between 18 and 24 foot I found to be excellent. You know, it stops that rattle of the real heavy line going through the rings, helps you get down to that thin line quickly, and it travels really quick and nice and smoothly through the air. So moving on to the distance sticks, like this is a real key in my fishing. You know, I could have elastic on there, and if I was using elastic, that would catch and that would hinder the range I'm getting. So, but if let's say for example I'm fishing at 40 rod lengths, I put those sticks in at 1 rod length apart, I wrap up, and I'm going to be on the same spot every time, which is imperative to be accuracy and when you're baiting. From the distance sticks, I don't go straight to cast. You know, it's really important. You know, when you're taking the line off of those distance sticks, the line is going under different tensions back onto the reel, and that can lead to frap up. So one thing that I'd recommend, take it off the sticks through your hands. And once you've done that, stretch the leader. You know, you've got really thick line on here, and when that's flying off the spool at high speed, it's got a chance of grabbing the butt ring. So what I do, hook it behind the tent peg. I take the leader off until it starts to change onto the thin section. I wrap it round my hand to stop the line digging into the spool under the tension, and I'll just give it a little stretch, you know, and that takes the coils out of it and really helps. But from there, down to the water's edge, flick it out into the lake, put the tip section under the water, including the butt ring, and wind it in from say 80-90 yards. That gives a good even tension of the line going back onto the reel, and will really help to prevent those horrible frap ups that will damage the line. So let's have a little look at my rig. Simple as always. I've got 12 inches of dark matter tubing, and that's really heavy, so I recommend that you don't go much longer than that, because it's so heavy it will take a few yards off your cast. That's neatly pushed into a tail rubber. directly onto a hybrid lead clip, and you'll notice that I'm using a 4.5 ounce lead here, and when fishing at really long range it helps when you're using a big lead, especially in a crosswind, so that when you hit that clip nice and hard, it helps to take the bow out of the line. With a lighter lead you will end up dropping a little bit short. The hook link that I'm using is 20 pound dark matter, and it's braid. You know, people often say to me, do you worry about braid getting tangles? Long range, short range, I never worry at all, because you need to use a heavy boilie. As long as you've got like an 18-20 miller on there, you hit your clip, you won't get any tangles. I'm going to move on to my casting technique now, and obviously wasn't always a good caster. I watched a few videos on YouTube with Mark Hutchinson, and there's a few key things, you know, weight transfer and the right kit, you know, and a good technique. And what I do, I hold the rod at sort of 45 degrees, and I keep my feet together. You know, a lot of people recommend that you don't do this, but I keep mine fairly close together. And just as I'm about to cast, my body leans back, all my weight's going back onto my back foot, the foot comes up, I take a stride, and as I plant that left foot down, I'm able to transfer all of my body weight at the same time as pulling that left hand in. And you will notice when I cast a really high trajectory, and that gives the lead the possibility to go as far as I need it to, you know. You get behind, push forward, put the foot down, pull in, send it up high, and sail it up there, and at the last minute, bring the rod to the side, and just cushion that clip, you know, so it doesn't ping back on you, and feel that lead down. So there you have it. I'm going to go and get this right out there. I'm here for 3 weeks, and the bait that I brought with me is a mixture of cell, which I air dried at home, high impact banoffee boilies, and some prepared tigers and some unprepared tigers. The ratio that I'm using is roughly 1.5 kilos of tigers to 1 kilo of cell to 1 kilo of banoffies, and you'll notice that I've got them in the tiger nut juice, and there's a reason for that. A, it makes them look washed out, softer and easier for the carp to eat, but also I've been having real issues. The bottom out here is really smelly, and when they go out there dry, obviously they're sucking up the that horrible silty smell. So the idea being they're sucking in that tiger nut juice, they're already hydrated, and when they're on the bottom they won't be sucking up that horrible smell. During this session, I've been here 6 nights in this swim. To start with, before the 6 nights I was moving about trying to nick a bite, but when I came to this swim I had a plan, you know, a bait and weight plan. So I initially had a good plumb round, found the spot that I wanted to fish, and I went in with 20 spombs of bait. I didn't get anything, and the next day I put out 45 spombs. So if you go on the ratio that roughly 10 spombs is 1 kilo of boilies, I had 6.5 kilos out there, and I had my first bite. The next night I put another 45 out there, so another 4.5 kilo, and I had another bite. And I was thinking, that's a lot of bait for one bite a night, and obviously they're coming in on it and eating, so I knew they knew it was there. So the next night I dropped it down to 30 spombs. I had 4 bites, and the next night 30 spombs, had another 2 bites. And since then, I haven't had a bite, but I put 30 out after catching, and I put another 45 out today. And the reason for that is, I don't just want a little bit of food to draw them in. I want the big fish to swim past a big amount of food out there. Even if they don't eat it in one go, I want them to know that it's there. And the thinking is, if they've seen it and they know there's a lot of food there, then they will come back and eat it. So to get all this bait out there, I'm going around the distance sticks exactly the same as the fishing rods, exactly the same amount of wraps. And that, to start with, is putting the bait at the back of the spot. You know, I've plumbed, I know there's an extra rod length of clear, so I'm going out, creating an area where the fish can move into from behind, putting sort of half the amount of spombs out at that range, and then I'm re-clipping half a rod length shorter, and that bait I'm thinking is probably landing the same range as the rigs are. Going to the rod itself, the rod is a 5-pound test curve longbow spod rod, and it's a proper tool for the job. And when you combine that with a spod reel and really fine floating braid, you can't use sinking braid, it has to be really fine floating braid, and put a really heavy 50-pound armour cord leader, you know, the force that's going through there, it needs to be something strong and hard wearing, and that is the ideal thing for that. The casting technique is exactly the same. Make sure you're wearing a finger stall, because when you're casting something that heavy, you've got a real potential to cut your finger. So make sure you've got that. Make sure you've got the front of the clutch screwed down really tight. And again, I've got the short drop, and as I'm lowering it back, I'm getting all my body weight onto the back foot. I'm planting that left foot down, and I'm driving it really high into the sky. And that's going to send it all the way out onto the clip. That's my bait for this session, and that's how I'm getting it out there.
Without any doubt, my top tip is let the fish show you where to fish.
Say you've got a lake that's 100 acres with 100 carp in it. You know, they're going to be grouped together. They're not all going to be dotted out, 1 fish per acre. There's going to be acres and acres of water without fish.
Your eyes are your greatest weapon in carp fishing, and by arriving in the dark or first thing in the morning, you can see fish that show that you're not going to see all day. If you turn up middle of the afternoon, unless it's blazing hot and the wind's pumping into a corner and all the fish are there, you're probably going to find it hard to find them. Get there in the dark and the lake comes alive. So the extra effort will pay dividends, and the more you fish to what you see, the more you will catch.
It's a key thing really. Location is paramount, but on big lakes it is the be all and end all of the fishing.
Definitely keep a record of what you catch and where you catch it from. I write everything down on my phone. If I find a spot that I get bites from, I wrap it round the distance stick so I know exactly how far it is, and then if I go back into that swim on another session, the fish are doing the same thing. I can get out quickly and quietly. And on this lake there are big barren areas, but there are also some prominent features in different swims. Once you've found the feature, record how many rod lengths it is to the feature. You've got it in your phone, so next time you go in there, you can be back on the feature straight away. And that is so important on a lake that's barren for acres and acres. If you can find a swim that's got a feature in it and the wind's blowing in the right direction and the fish are there, that's where you want to be fishing.
Having different diameter lines is an absolute must, because on a big lake you've got so many different sort of situations that you could be faced with. You could be faced with extreme weed or snags, and in that situation you really want to have like a 0.40 on something like that, a 15-20 pound line, something that will really stand up to some abrasion and help you land those fish in those sort of epic battles that you could encounter. But on the flip side of that, when you're fishing at massive range, a line like that just doesn't travel to the same distances because of its thickness. So something with a 0.30, you know, a nice silky soft line that will help you get those extra yards will can put you into zones that other anglers can't fish. Sometimes on a really difficult lake, just being able to cast that little bit further and having the right equipment for the job has helped me to catch a lot of good ones.
Unless it's really, really snaggy, I would recommend you avoid fishing tight lines, especially when you're fishing in close. I know sometimes at extreme distance you have to do it because of the drag, but we found in the summertime when we were chasing the fish around, we were fishing very, very slack lines, and we got loads of bites doing it. And I noticed a lot of the guys that fish here all the time, even when they're fishing in close, they've got a bowstring tight line. The fish have been fished for like 20 odd years over here. They must know what that is. So if you slacken off, fishing with a stow bobbin, you can semi-fix it in there, so you still get pretty good bite indication, even though the line is slack. And I think it just gives the fish the opportunity to come into the area and feed without coming into contact with the line and without seeing it either.
One of the greatest things that I've added to my armoury when fishing big lakes, and it's only been a recent addition, is a mountain bike. You know, it enables me to get round a huge lake real quick. You know, I can nip round, see another angler, pick up snippets of information, see what they've seen, and I can add this to what I'm thinking about, where they fish are. I can get back to my swim, pack up really quick and get round there. Other things like nipping to the car to get supplies out, or nipping to the shops. It's a great thing, and it's something that I'm going to be incorporating in my angling whenever I'm fishing a big lake.
Use tackle and bait that you've got confidence in. If you've caught elsewhere on something, then use it on a new water. The worst thing you can do is go in with something completely new that you've never caught a fish on, and if you're not catching, you don't know why. So use tried and tested rigs and tried and tested baits. And we found here that the banoffees in the high impact have worked brilliantly. We needed to brick them because we had no freezer facilities. The bait doesn't go off, and the fish have absolutely loved it. And Daryl's caught some fantastic fish on the white banoffee slow sinkers. We've also had fish on pop-ups in the summer. The squid goo's been very good. Garlic's been good as well, and I've caught a few on the cell hook baits that I made with a cork dust as well. So loads of different things have worked, but most importantly they're all baits and rigs that we've caught loads of fish on from other waters. So if you go on somewhere new, stick with what you know works. And before I go, one personal request from me. Please take your litter home with you. Every time I leave this place, I take loads of stuff back to England that I end up recycling because that's the way I am. Some of it's anglers' rubbish, a lot of it is the general public's rubbish. To me, anglers, true anglers, are patrons of the countryside, and I always want a lake to be nicer when I leave than when I arrive. So if everybody did the same thing who was an angler, lakes would be cleaner and tidier than they've ever been before, and we would get an even better reputation than we've got already. So if you bring it with you, please take it home again.
Look at this, £71 common, the perfect end to an incredible session. I'm over the moon, amazing fish and an amazing water. Oh, let's get him back. Whoa. Thank you, Michelle.
Well done.
Well, ladies and gents, that is the very last carp of Masterclass Volume 2. Thank you very much to all the people that have let us fish their waters, the people here in Belgium, the people in Italy and the UK too. And thanks very much to Daryl and all the members of Team Korda for sharing all their fish catching information. We do sincerely hope he puts loads more fish in your landing net. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in Volume 3.